Good morning, everyone. Welcome, and we're excited today to have our first Barber and Cosmetology Advisory Board meeting, and thank you all for coming. I would like to call the meeting to order. It's 10:02, and we'll take a roll call now.
Yes.
Anna?
Ladietrich Leonard. Say here, sir.
Here.
Ron Jemison. Natalie Enderman. Nayland Holman.
Here.
Darren Peterson.
Here.
Laura Valdez.
Here.
Aurora Farthing.
Here.
And presiding officer, Mary Lindsay.
Here.
You have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I forgot to call one member, Salvador Flores.
Here.
Salvador's been there for a while too. Thank you. Just want to remind everyone when they're speaking to please announce their name, and please mute yourself if you're not speaking. So today, since we have a new board, we talked about letting everyone go around and introduce themselves, and I guess that'll begin with me. I'm Mary Lindsay, and I have been in the business for many years, cosmetology related, 50 years, and then longtime instructor, and I'm at a community college in Houston, and have loved being on the board previously, and plan to help as much as I can to bring our Barber and Cosmetology Board into fruition and helping the public, and as we say, health, safety, and welfare of the public. And thank you for today. Thank you all for coming. Anna, do you want to go around, or do you want me to?
Yes, I'd like to introduce the chairman of our commission. He's here, Mr. Rick Figueroa.
And thanks. Great to see you guys. I appreciate it. Listen, I just wanted to pop in. The last thing you need is another voice confusing or doing anything that shouldn't be done. So I appreciate the time. Two things I want to point out to you guys. One is thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I know you're doing it for the money. Your paychecks are in the mail, and so just hold your breath, and it'll be there soon. But I appreciate your investment in this industry. I think it's an industry that is going to be incredibly important to Texas, but it's incredibly important to me, particularly because I think it has a lot of opportunity for us to engage in a lot of communities that are marginalized. And so I'm excited about that. Two is hang on for the ride. I will tell you that the one thing I've learned chairing this commission is that it's just going to change. It's just like Texas weather. You can 70 degrees, and then tomorrow it'll be freezing, and then it'll be everybody be wanting to burn up at 100 degrees. So it'll change. Stay with me. Stay with us on this. Be patient with the commission. Be patient with each other. You guys are our eyes and ears. We can't do our job without you. It is not possible to do our job without you. When I was going through this with Mary, each and every one of you, by the way, Mary spoke very highly of each and every one of you. So I think y'all owe her money. I'm not sure how much y'all paid her for that, but she did. She spoke very highly of each of you. So I lean on her heavily to how to put this advisory commission together. But I think that we're in for one amazing ride for our industry. And so, especially with the legislature coming up and next year, they're going to be looking at a lot of different things on how to reduce regulation, increase the opportunity within this industry, and then just the overall marrying of these two, Cos and Barb, together. What strategies have happened, and can we do with others? So I'm excited. If you have any questions, let Anna or Mary know. They got my number. Anna, Mary, please feel free to give each of these members my cell phone number. They can call me directly. You don't have to go through anything other than just reach out directly. You're in good hands with David and Mike and Christina. They do the impossible. They make me look good. So that's those three are amazing. So good luck, and God bless you guys. Y'all have a great meeting.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll start off with introductions. Anyone else, Anna, before we go to the board?
No, ma'am.
Okay, the new members, who wants to go first? Miss Berthing? Farthing?
Yes, I'm Aurora Farthing, and I'm from Lubbock, Texas. I have been serving on various TDLR boards for quite a while. I have a small real estate investment company. I volunteer for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I also volunteer for the Texas Women for the Arts. I'm really excited about TDLR's effort to reach out to disenfranchised groups to find new ways for people to become licensed, to receive training, at the same time reducing regulation. So I'm excited about the potential for this board, and I'm a political animal. I track the legislature very closely. I don't know. Oh, I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, if you can believe that. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
Thank you. How about Laura?
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Valdez. I've been a second generation. Been in the industry a little over 25 years. Cosmetologist, barber, and educator, instructor. And I own a Paul Mitchell School here in Austin, Texas, going on 20 years now. And I'm just excited, and it's a privilege to be a part of this board, and I look forward to seeing, our future and how we take our industry to the next level.
Great, thank you. Who wants to go next? Darren?
Hi, it's great to
Hi.
be here today. Thank you so much for choosing me to be on the advisory board. My name is Darren Peterson. I have essentially been in Texas for all of my life, grew up in Houston, and I've been 26 years here in Austin. I own Finley's Barbershop. We are a 15 location um, business, and 12 of those locations are here in Texas. I have locations in Austin, Dallas, Houston, South Lake, Plano, Frisco, and a few in Colorado as well. I'm very excited to be on the board because, as you know, it's an unprecedented time for our industry. Finding qualified, skilled stylists and barbers, specifically for those that own shops and own salons, it's a very hard time for us right now. So I'm excited to be able to participate in maybe taking down some of those barriers to entry for those that want to become licensed, those that would like to participate in the crossover program. And also I'm in a unique position because I'm familiar with what other states are doing, such as Colorado and some of their unique ways of bringing people into the industry. And I'm hoping that some of those ideas can also be presented here as well. So thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to the time I get to spend.
Thank you. What, Ms. Holman?
Hi, my name is Naylin Holman. I am originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. I have lived in Texas for 23 years, so I officially claim Texas now as my home. I have been a cosmetologist for 27 years, and I've been a salon owner now for a total of 8 years. I own Nail and Joy Hair in Plano, Texas, and there's my cat. Um, while I absolutely love doing being a cosmetologist and doing hair, my passion in this industry is the business of cosmetology. And so this appointment just falls right in line with my passion and my goals. And so I'm really, really excited to be here, and excited to work with everyone. I'm a mother of 3, 2 grown adult children and one in high school, and one who is left yesterday on an assignment to serve our country in the Air Force. So
It's exciting.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, how about Ladidrick Leonard?
Hello, my name is Lededrick Leonard. I know
Yes.
that's a tongue twister for some, but it's
Thank
Lededrick
you.
Leonard. And first, I want to say I'm so appreciative of being appointed to the board. It's one of those life-changing experiences, and I plan on cherishing it. I want to look forward to the opportunity to serve in every capacity. I live here in Austin, Texas. I'm a native Texan, and I am employed at Bavell Barber School, where I've acted as campus director, educator, and whatever else needs done. And watching that transition over the last 7 years has been amazing. I really believe in being involved in the community, like in all aspects of community, and seeing how barber and cosmetology plays a part in almost every community in the nation. So seeing how we can better our industry to be able to serve in those communities and make sure that we have our industry standards at the best level, just to make sure that we still keep the integrity and pride in what we're doing, at the same time invite as many people as possible to be a part of the journey. So I just want to say thank you again, and I look forward for the opportunity to get to know you more, and each one of you more, and serve together with you in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Salvador Flores.
Good morning. My name is Sal Flores. I am from South Texas, McAllen. I was born and raised in Mercedes. So proud to be here in the Valley. But I also want to say thank you for the humble opportunity to be here with you today. Some experience background. Definitely, I've been a instructor at a public and private school sector. I've had a salon before. I now am I was a teacher at a business teacher at McAllen High School. Then I became a testing coordinator, then an assistant principal. And now I'm the director for the district. I run the district with RTI, 504 and dyslexia for McAllen ISD. We have over 30,000 students. So I'm very proud to be able to say that I think I can be here to serve us as a committee, as a board. But most important, I think I'm here to serve also our district, our state of Texas, and making sure we listen to our constituents and our friends, and most important, to make the right decisions for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Anna, did Natalie come in? Can't hear you. You're muted. Yeah, there.
No, ma'am, but we do have Mr. Ron Jemison Jr. coming in. He's one of our board members.
Yes.
And we have Commissioner Collier coming in as well. She is on the TCLR of our commission for TDLR. Commissioner Collier, would you like to introduce yourself, ma'am?
Hey there. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. I wanted to hop on, and thanks, Anna, for sending over the link. I appreciate that. I wanted to hop on this morning for this first meeting. I think it is for the year. I appreciate everybody's support in this combined advisory board group, and because this is key for us as we move forward under the new efforts and initiatives. My heart always goes out for the cosmetologists and the barbers, and have supported the advisory board meetings in the past, and so it was important for me to show up. And just want to say thank you for all your efforts. I am not sure, Mary, ground me on who the new chair of this advisory board is.
That would be Mary Winston, TDLR. That would be Miss Mary Lindsay.
Hi,
She
how
is
are
the
you?
presiding officer.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mary. And I should know that you're at the top. You're at the
Yes.
very top of my screen. So you are.
Thank
I
you.
guess sometimes that's always a giveaway. But thank you so much for your support, and some of the faces that I do know, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Are you local in Houston? Where are you based?
I'm in Houston.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. All right, so we can connect then. All right, super. Thank
Anytime.
you,
Thanks.
Kaiser. Thanks, Anna. All right, Winston.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay,
Ms.
Mr.
Lindsay, I
Jemison.
also want to make you aware that Mr. Jemison has arrived as well. Mr. Jemison, thank you so much for joining. We actually just finished introductions. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the rest of the board.
I was actually hanging on the training class. So I was in the wrong link.
Oh,
Oh,
Ron, a quick introduction. Thank you.
okay. Ron Jemison Jr., board member, owner of Franklin Institute. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, I guess any more introductions, Anna?
Presiding Officer Lindsay, and get used to hearing that. I know you're like, why are they calling me that? You're the woman. You're it today. So I think if we have some more staff here that I
Yeah,
want
that's
to
what I
hit. I
like.
believe we've captured all of the members. Thank you, Commissioner Collier, for being here. Thank you, Chairman Figueroa, for making an appearance. I know he's super busy, as we all are, but man, that man is busy. I wanted to, before going to the next agenda item, we have Mr. Brian Francis here. And since we won't have him very long, I wanted to know if he wanted to, in this introduction time period, utilize that time to say a couple of words, or if he would prefer to hang on for this final meeting of his tenure. He can sit through the whole meeting.
Winston, Mary Winston, you're very funny. This is Brian Francis, Executive Director of TDLR. And as one of my last official acts, I wanted to stop by and be a part of this advisory board group. As Commissioner Collier touched on, there's important work that's in front of you. The fortunate thing, Darren, is that you have a great team that's going to help support you. There's a lot of experience that you guys are going to bring to the table that's going to allow us to construct something, but you also have the licensing and the education examination experience of the staff, and blending those things together is really what's going to allow us to create something special and unique here in Texas. The key is to read House Bill 1560 and really look at what that language says. It's going to establish the framework by which you can move and navigate and create this brand new thing. But the first lesson you'll get from everyone is that our authority comes from the statute. And then we build our rules to start putting in place how everything unfolds. And so just keep in mind, if you're going to really excel in this moment, you got to understand the law. You don't have to be a lawyer, but you got to understand the law and being able to navigate that and how that puts it together. So I'm excited. I will be watching from afar. Thank goodness we can do it virtually. I'm going to miss everyone here, but the Barber group and the Cosmetology group has always been special. Mary, Lindsay, it's exciting to see you chair this group.
Thank you.
So exciting. I mean, you've always been a steady intellectual voice that's really been creative and innovative, and you've set the tone for it. So this is going to be an outstanding board, and you've got a great team to pull on. So I'm going to wave goodbye to y'all. This is my last act. I'm going to throw some furniture over in the office and kind of just be a bum for a little bit. Love y'all. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Have fun.
So, Presiding Officer Lindsay, now that Mr. Francis has dropped the mic, so to speak, we can continue on with the agenda.
Okay. We have our virtual meeting training from you, Ms. Winston. Am I right about that?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Again, Mary Winston, TDLR. I'm the advisory board attorney, and I have an amazing team. Anna, Angelica, and Delia do an amazing job training, getting everything out. And the things that you don't see is all of the difficulties that it's just technological things, getting people on, just making sure this runs smoothly. And I want to say thank you to them. I also want to say a big thank you to all of you. Thank you. You're like, oh, thanks for picking me. OMG, thank you for accepting the call. As we played chess with the number of applications that we got, the chairman is right. He always, it's almost a threatening thing, but I think it's a compliment. He's like, Mary, it's on you. But really, y'all, it's on you. And I thank each and every one of you all for accepting this position, because we need you, and you did accept that call. First, we talk about meeting protocol and best practices. When we first started this, we talked about, of course, presiding officer today has said, mute your mic if you're not speaking. If you can stay on camera, please stay on camera. That helps us have an effective board. It helps us be completely transparent. You never know when this is going to be watched and by whom. And I'm talking to the members. As you know, this is on YouTube, and I don't have the time frame that that's going to stay up. I'm not sure. So we want to make sure we present the best face. When we first started, we talked about you don't want to be the next YouTube sensation, and that would be a bad thing. And we've all seen those memes where someone does something and all of a sudden it's just played on a loop. They change the what you say, what you do. We don't want that. So we just want to have a great meeting. And thus far as we've been in this virtual world more, we have. And I know that each of you has had, oh gosh, a plethora of these meetings, and that's just doesn't even have to be said. One important thing to be said is when we take a vote, we would like you all to be on the camera if possible, but to take a verbal vote. Anna will call your name and we'll take a vote that way. It's too difficult to see a hand. She may miss something. So taking that vote with an aye or a yes or a nay would be wonderful. If you have a question, again, you can raise your hand. Hopefully someone will see, but we will try our best to acknowledge you. And sorry, most importantly, if you get bumped off of the meeting, not your fault. We're all kind of slaves to technology. Simply log off and log back in on the same link. Mr. Michael Fickle, he is running everything in the background. He's our puppeteer today. We'll let you back into the meeting. Public comments. Our public comments notice for giving them is given when we post our agenda. At that point, we let you know who to contact to make that public comment, how to get into the meeting this morning, and we handle that accordingly. Public participation. Public participation is a little bit different because we are virtual. So public participation, pass a public comment, is something that we can't have in the meeting. It's also not noticed on the agenda. However, which is a requirement. However, any comments that the public would like to lend to whatever has occurred in this meeting, I always put forth our advisory board email, advisory.boards@tdlr.texas.gov, because being transparent means we want to hear from you. That's actually all I have today. I look so forward to this new board. I know some of you, several of you are new, and we all look forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Winston. We appreciate it and getting us all ready. Now we're ready for public comment. Anna, am I ready? Am I right about that? And
Yes, ma'am. We
we have
actually,
two?
we had two requests, but only one person has joined our meeting. Miss Lily Benitez is here. Miss Benitez, can you hear me? Miss Benitez, I can see you. Can you hear me? Looks like she may be having some technical difficulties. Looks like you're muting and unmuting. Can you hear me, ma'am? I see you're in the meeting. Can you hear me?
Anna, can we get someone to contact Ms. Benitez offline
We can
so
do
we can
that.
get her, yes, get her sound together.
We'll do that. We can move the public comment down and we'll do the, if you'd like, Ms. Presiding Officer, we'll move on to open government training, get her situated, and then come back to public comment.
Anna, can I ask a question about the emails that we received?
Of course.
Did everyone get those on the board?
Yes.
Okay. So I
Those
just
were
wanted to
all
make sure.
sent Friday afternoon to everybody.
Okay. And just wanted to make sure that they received those. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, we can move to the open government training. Alex Phelps.
Hey there, board members. My name is Alex Phipps. I am one of the assistant general counsels assigned to this program. I'm going to give you a short overview of the open government requirements applicable to this board. You'll also be hearing from my colleague Molly Fidel later in this presentation about what we do in the Office of General Counsel. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint with you. And if there is any problem seeing or hearing this, please let me know. And we will go through this training. And if you have any questions after the training, feel free to contact either one of us or anyone else here at TDLR. We'd be happy to help you. So with that said, get this PowerPoint started. As you can see, this is the first meeting of the Barbering and Cosmetology Advisory Board, and the Office of General Counsel is performing this open government training. We're going to cover 3 different applicable statutes: the Open Meetings Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, and the Public Information Act. So the first one we're going to touch on is the Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Texas Open Meetings Act is to ensure open and transparent government. The act requires meetings of governmental bodies to be open to the public and to be preceded by public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. Provisions of the Open Meetings Act are mandatory, and they're liberally construed in favor of open government. Key concepts that we're going to go over are essential things you need to know to understand the Open Meetings Act, and the first one is quorum. So a quorum of the advisory board is a majority of the members of the advisory board or committee as fixed by the rule or statute that creates that body. For this board, it's 5 members. A quorum of the body, including any part of the advisory board or committee, must meet in order to take an official action. If less than a quorum meets, the board or committee may have discussion, but you may not take an official action. The next concept is deliberation. We also call this discussion. This is a verbal or written exchange among a quorum of the governmental body or between the governmental body and another person concerning an issue within the jurisdiction of the governmental body's authority. The third concept is meetings. The meeting occurs anytime a quorum of a governmental body engages in deliberation regarding public business or public policy over which the body has supervision or control, or anytime that body tries to take formal action. And finally, notice. The Open Meetings Act requires advance notice of the time and the date, the place, and the subject matter of each meeting held. Here at TDLR, we prepared that in the form of an agenda. We post that with the Texas Secretary of State's website 7 days before the meeting, but we also provide that on our website. The board or committee may not engage in discussions about a subject that is not included in the agenda. We get a lot of questions about social functions, conventions, continuing education, and things like that. Just keep in mind, if a meeting can occur anytime you have a quorum of a governmental body engaging in discussion about an issue within their jurisdiction, can the members ever meet in an informal setting without violating the Open Meetings Act? So the answer to that is yes, they can meet in an informal setting, and they're free to even engage in conversation that's incidental to the event. However, the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act requirements if a quorum of the members is involved and the members engage in a discussion or try to make decisions or take formal action about anything under the board or committee's official jurisdiction. So if you're at a continuing education with members of this advisory board, please do not try to take any votes or hold any other official policy actions. Key points to remember: please be aware of any situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of the members is present. Do not engage in substantive conversations relating to board or committee business or policy when a quorum is involved, especially if you are outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. And please be aware of the walking quorum. The walking quorum occurs when fewer than a quorum of members engage in a discussion about official business, and then they communicate those discussions to other members. When fewer than a quorum of members participate in the initial communication, your subsequent communications with other members can result in a quorum discussing official business outside of an officially noticed meeting. We have an example for you. On a non-member advisory board like this one, 3 members exchanged phone calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change. And they exchange research that they have each individually performed about that issue. One of those board members subsequently forwards the exchange to 2 more members of the board. Then the members have engaged in a walking quorum. They've engaged in a small group discussion outside of a properly noticed meeting that reached a full quorum of the board. These can occur during conference calls, video conferences, in the hallway outside of a meeting, say in front of the water fountains. And they can also occur by emails, text messages, and other social media technologies. The walking quorum concept combined with social media technology like Twitter or Facebook raise new issues about open meetings and compliance with the Open Meetings Act, and those are things you need to be very cautious about. We have some best practices for you. To avoid a walking quorum, you should not meet in small groups to discuss board or commission business, and then communicate those discussions to any other members. Do not send emails or text messages to a quorum of the members, even if each email is addressed and sent to each member individually. Do not create posts or send messages on social media about board business where there's a likelihood that a quorum of the members could participate or interact with those discussions. And you should not ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for feedback or comments on board or committee business outside of the public meeting. We call that polling, and it's essentially conducting an informal vote on that issue. Some guidelines for your open sessions and for advisory board meetings. The board or committee is limited to discussing the specific items on the agenda. During the public comment portion of the meeting, members of the public are given an opportunity to speak, and the presiding officer can set reasonable limits on the interaction with those commenters. However, a member of the public or a member of the board may raise a subject not on the agenda, but the discussion must be limited to proposal to place that on a future agenda. It cannot be discussed during the current meeting. Some other best practices. To avoid violating the Open Meetings Act on the basis of insufficient notice, you should limit your discussions to specific agenda items contained in the posting with the Secretary of State. You should avoid allowing your discussions regarding specific agenda items to wander off course into new topics and issues that have not been noticed. You should not respond to or discuss issues that are raised during public comment but are not on the agenda. And you should specifically identify the items you want on a future agenda and identify those for TDLR staff during the portion of the meeting that we have set up for that. So there are some penalties and remedies if you do violate the Open Meetings Act. The civil remedies are that any interested person, so that can be anyone including the media or a member of the public, can petition the courts to stop actions taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. It also states that an action taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act is voidable, so they can enjoin any action that's taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. They can reverse the actions that are taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Also, there are criminal penalties. So any members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or in a meeting that's closed to the public can be subject to misdemeanor criminal penalties. So that can be a fine of up to $500, be imprisonment in the county jail for up to 6 months, or both the fine and jail time. So for best practices, again, avoid communications that involve a quorum of the board or committee members about official business outside of a noticed meeting. And during open meetings, confine your discussion to items specifically on the agenda. We have some resources here. We don't expect you to write all these links down. We'll be happy to provide them to you. And if you have any questions, you can contact us about that. The next law that we're going to talk about is the Administrative Procedure Act. The Administrative Procedure Act is a body of law here in Texas that establishes the minimum standards of uniform practice and procedure in front of state agencies and provides for public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. The APA defines a rule as a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that does one of the following things. It interprets, implements, prescribes law or policy, or it describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. It's unlikely you're going to see any rulemakings here in front of this advisory board that describe the procedure or practice requirements of TDLR. But that first category of implementation and interpreting law is something that we will be doing very frequently with this advisory board. The rule excludes a statement regarding only the internal management or organization of a state agency that doesn't affect private rights or procedures. So our internal HR manual here at TDLR is not a rulemaking. However, a rulemaking can be a new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, or the repeal of an existing rule. So it's not just new text. Anytime you change or remove a rule as well. There are many sources for the material in rulemaking. It could be legislative changes, such as House Bill 1560. It can be the advisory boards identifying issues that need to be addressed. TDLR staff can bring up issues. There's a 4-year rule review process required by the APA. And there's also a rule petition process outlined by the APA. I'll give you a short overview of what the rule petition is. Any interested person can submit a petition to a state agency requesting that we adopt a rule. An interested person is a Texas resident, a business entity in Texas, a governmental subdivision in Texas, or a public or private organization that is not a state agency but is located here in Texas. So obviously the overarching theme is someone in Texas, but any of those entities can submit a petition to the agency. Here we have a overview of the rulemaking process, and you take a look at this. This is sort of the flow of how a normal rulemaking would go. The green boxes are things that the agency is doing internally, and the blue boxes are actions by this advisory board. So initially, we'll draft and prepare a rule. We'll conduct our internal review and analysis, and we'll bring it to the advisory board for the first meeting where it can be discussed, and any changes the advisory board would like to make can be made at that time. After the first advisory board, the text will be proposed in the Texas Register, which is a requirement of the APA. Then a 30-day comment period begins, which is also required by the APA. After that period closes, the agency reviews those comments and brings the rule package back to the second advisory board if necessary. After that, the proposed rules can be adopted at the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation. After the adoption, the rules are published and become effective. Here's a short overview of the rule review process, which is a 4-year period required by the APA. So on a 4-year schedule, each of our programs must conduct this rule review process. The agency will publish notice of intent to review the rules. The public has 30 days to provide their comments on the necessity of those rules. The General Counsel Division will review the comments and make a recommendation to the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation on whether or not to readopt the rules. The Commission will review those filings, all the public comments, and make a decision. And after that, when they have decided to readopt the chapter, they may send materials to the advisory board to be reviewed and to recommend actual changes to the chapter's text. We have some resources here. Again, don't expect you to write these chapters down. We will happily provide this to you and talk to you about any questions you may have. And so the last body of law that we're going to talk about is the Public Information Act. The Public Information Act, also sometimes called the Open Records Act, intended to allow the public access to information about the affairs and government and the official acts of public officials and employees. Just to be clear here, you may hear this also called FOIA. That's the federal version of this law. That does not apply to Texas state agencies. Here in Texas, our version is the Public Information Act. So the Act makes all documents, records, and other information relating to official business open to the public, but there are exceptions. Public information includes any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device that is in connection with official agency business. That's an important point. It does not matter if TDLR owns the device or if it's your personal device. If that communication is related to the official business of the agency or of this advisory board, then it may be subject to the open records requirements of the Public Information Act. The Act is construed liberally in favor of granting requests for information. We do receive a request. If you received anything that looks like an open records request at all, please send those to the Office of General Counsel's Open Records team as soon as possible. And likewise, if you receive a communication from the General Counsel's Open Records team, please respond to that as soon as possible. The reason why is that a prompt response is an important part of the Public Information Act, and there's normally a 10 business day deadline set on TDLR's timeline for responses. We also do not have the ability to ask why someone wants the records. This is an agnostic process. We can only ask for clarifications about the scope of that request. So there's a ticking clock on our response, and we need to be comprehensive and thorough in our responses, and your assistance is very much appreciated. I'll give you some general rules and common exceptions to public information requests. The general rule is there is a presumption of openness. However, there is certain information that's always redacted from these requests. Examples of that would include date of birth, most email addresses, your driver's license and license plate, vehicle identification number, credit card numbers, and things that are protected by HIPAA or the Texas Medical Records Privacy Act. Again, we have some short resources here for you. Happy to explain any issues that you have with this or any questions. Feel free to reach out to us and we'd be glad to help. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Phipps. We appreciate it. And so now we will go to staff reports. If there are no questions, any questions? Are we, Anna, are we going back to the
public comments? Yes, ma'am. I believe
Okay.
we fixed it. Ms. Benitez, can you hear me? I think I can unmute you. Let's see.
Anna, are you going to set the 3 minutes or?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and time you. Ms. Benitez, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Oh, hold on. It keeps, let me unmute you. Okay.
Welcome,
Go
Ms.
ahead,
Benitez.
start whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lily Benitez. I am the founder and director of Bladecraft Barber Academy in Dallas, Texas. First of all, thank you all so much for being a part of our advisory board. I'm really excited about the new faces and the familiar faces that I'm seeing on the board. And I just want to say thank you in advance for all that you are doing and all of the positive changes that are going to come. One of the things that I wanted to address immediately was we had a little bit of confusion on the email that went out communicating about the changing the name of the barber technician license to the aesthetics holding license. So I had a couple of comments and suggestions on that. So first of all, whenever an email is being sent out to communicate changes to either a Class A barber license or a cosmetology license, I'm always curious if somebody on our board is able to lay eyes on it and ensure that maybe the language that is being used is going to be beneficial to a more clear and less confusing message. We had massive outrage, people thinking that the Class A barber license or that the cosmetology license was being changed to the aesthetics holding license, which was not the case at all. But I think if somebody on our board could maybe edit the emails before they go out and saying, like, maybe a sentence that says, the Class A barber license is not being impacted by this, or something that's a little bit more clarifying. I understand that sometimes who's sending the email may not be an operator, and so they may not understand how something that subtle could be very confusing and traumatizing for us dealing with human trafficking, COVID-19, books, and all of that above. The other thing that I did want to really draw attention to is, especially with all the changes of the House Bill 1560, in order to ensure that barber schools and cosmetology schools are providing the best level of education, I know that PSI is the form that we use for testing for both our written exams and our practical exams. So all of the schools should have a grade or a report or a result of the written exams and the practical exams. And so I would just like to mention to the board if we can do a better job of holding the schools as well to a standard of excellence, ensuring that we are educating and preparing our students to be successful in our trade. And then last but not least, I wanted to mention maybe get a little bit of clarity as to why we opted to change the barber technician license to the aesthetics holding license, in that the barber technician license offers hair braiding, and I'm unsure that the aesthetics holding license does. So I just kind of wanted to understand if there was, maybe more aesthetics holding license holders than there were barber technician holders. So I would appreciate a little bit on that. And then I'm not sure if I'll see Brian Francis again, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for all your years of service. Y'all have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Benitez. Okay, so we're ready to presume down.
Yes, ma'am.
Staff reports. Molly Fidel.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. All right, my name is Molly Fudel. I'm an assistant general counsel here at TDLR, along with Alex Phipps. We're going to be your representatives from the general counsel's office. Primarily, you're going to see us in connection with rulemaking And if we do have the in-person meetings, we will be sitting at the table with Mary Winston to make sure that we're following the Open Meetings Act. But we do a lot more than the meetings, and we do a lot more than rulemaking. I'm going to go through the slides in a second, but first I'm going to talk a little bit more about our office. We provide general legal services to the department as well as the commission. The head of our office is Brad Bowman, our general counsel, and we have 2 deputy general counsels and 10 assistant general counsels. That includes me and Alex. We also have an open records attorney, a records management officer, and 10 amazing legal assistants. So in addition to doing the open records and the meetings and the rulemaking, we also review contested cases that go before the commission. So those are the cases that enforcement is prosecuting, where they're seeking to administer a fine or a penalty, or perhaps suspend or revoke a license. We also oversee any litigation that TDLR is involved in, either as a defendant, or sometimes we are the plaintiff and we're the one pursuing the case. If there's a repeat offender, we may go to court and seek an injunction to get that illegal activity to stop. We also work on contracts and procurement. We work on collections, so collecting those fees that are assigned, the fines that are assessed. And we also do records management for the entire agency. So I'll go to the slides now, Anna. Thank you. All right, so this first slide is focused on rulemaking. You'll see there's 47 proposals filed. These are proposed rules, and then 41 adopted, and that was in fiscal year 2021. Here, when we're talking about rule proposals, we're talking about the rule package that goes forward, either amending existing rules, creating new rules, repealing old rules. And I think that all 47 of those proposals were eventually adopted. But it may have been in the next fiscal year, which is why you see that discrepancy in the numbers. But each one of these rule proposals has a lot involved. It's not just drafting the text, it's filing documents, it's public comments and analyzing them. And it takes a lot of attention to detail. And we work very closely with the legal assistants and the program staff on each one of these rule packages. And you'll see at the very bottom of that slide, the total pending rule proposals is 86. So that's the number of rule packages we have that we're currently working on. And then the next slide has to do with open records. So last fiscal year, we had 4,900 open records requests that we processed. For each one of these, we had to gather the documents, and we do this through a team of document liaisons, records liaisons throughout the agency, go through every single page and redact what needed to be redacted. And then for certain information, if we wanted to withhold it, we'd have to file a brief with the Office of the Attorney General. That's what that means when it says OAG briefs filed. And we have to get their approval before withholding that information. It's all, the numbers are astounding, and we're on track this fiscal year to process even more requests than we did last year. So our open records team and all of our records liaisons just do a phenomenal job. That's it for the GC overview. I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Molly. Appreciate it. Any questions? Okay. Our next report will be from Licensing Division for Yvonne Lopez.
Hi, good morning, members. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to Texans. My name is Yvonne Lopez. I'm the licensing manager for the Barbering and Cosmetology program. I have been the manager for this program since 2019. Excuse me. I worked for the state for 24 years. Of those 24 years, I've been with TDLR for 13. I worked in enforcement for 4 of those years and RPM for 7 years, and I've now been in licensing just a little over 2 years. So I'll start with what it is that we do and how we do it. We have a staff of 71 individuals. And let me apologize, Dee Dee McEachern is our manager for the division. And like I said, I'll start with how many staff and what we do. So we have 71 staff to evaluate and review initial license applications to ensure that people are qualified to receive the license that they're applying for. We also process renewals. We have about 860,000 licensees that we're responsible for, and that means that the ratio of staff to licensees is 1 staff member to about 12,000 license holders. In fiscal year 2021, we had over 634,000 licensees who were issued a license, and 81.6 of those licensees filed online. And about 117,000 of those applications were received in the mail. So we still have a very large population of individuals who submit paper applications. Some of those are because of reciprocity, individuals who are coming from another state that may not qualify for reciprocity, but they can qualify to take our exams. Some of those individuals have allowed their licenses to expire over 3 years, so they can't reapply online. And then other ones are businesses. Moving on, we've got about 39 programs that include over 200 unique license types. And again, our license population is more than 860,000 licensees. There are licenses that are issued to individuals and businesses. Anything that is not an individual is considered a business. So like our elevators, our boilers, they're considered businesses. 73% of our licensee population is individuals, and the remaining 27% are businesses. We do have 9 different licensing systems. Fortunately for me, most of our programs are in just 2 different databases, but there are other teams that do have to know more than 2 databases. And we're working on getting a single system, but that is going to take some time. Excuse me while I am trying to enlarge this because some of this font is a little bit too small for me. Our staff do cross-train. So during high peak seasons, we are able to assist other teams. So like for our industry, we get a large volume of paper applications for student permits. So staff from other teams will all pitch in and commit to about an hour to 2 hours. It just depends on how many applications we receive between August and October. A large bulk of the student permit applications that we do see are from the public schools, because what we've seen is that the public schools don't have access to like a credit card, so they can make those payments online through the shear system. So we see a lot of those that come in that are received by mail. So we're able to turn around and get those student permit applications processed very quickly. Staff are trained in other applications as well. So while we have those staff that come in and help us with the simpler applications, my team is able to focus on the more complex applications like reciprocity, out of country, those applications that have or those licensees that have allowed their licenses to expire over 3 years. Again, we do have to manually reset those for reapplication. And it's not limited to staff helping just our programs. Our staff are able to, like my team is able to help other teams when our applications are lower, our backlogs are lower. And then Anna, if you'll go on to the next slide. This is just a history of our licensing performance measures. And you'll see in FY20, we have FY19, FY20, and FY21. And what that means is our fiscal years run from September 1st of each year to August 31st of the following year. And you'll see the percentages of new licenses issued, renewals, the population that actually does their applications online and renewals online, and then the total population of the licensed individuals and licensed facilities or businesses. And then moving on to the staff report. I apologize. There is a list of all of the licenses that each program has. So while we have 39 different license types, there are sub licenses under each one. Any questions so far? And now you'll see our statistics for the barbering and cosmetology programs. I have gone ahead and merged the data so that you can see the populations as a whole. I did go ahead and separate the Class A barber licenses and the cosmetology operator licenses so that you can just have an idea of what those populations look like. You'll see that we have a breakdown of new licenses issued, the percent of new licenses issued online, the renewal licenses that were issued, and then the percent of renewals that were done online. And then you have the population so far, which is just through December 31st of 2021, and the total population from fiscal year 2021. And then I've separated the individuals, which are, we're starting to introduce the new term as it's used in the law, which is practitioners. So the practitioners are just the individual license holders, and then the license establishments, which would be the shops and salons. Any questions about those statistics so far? Okay. One thing that had not been reported previously that we are starting to track now is the number of email contacts that our licensing division is seeing for these programs. In fiscal year 2021, which ended August 31st of 2021, we had a little over 8,500 contacts between September and December for the fiscal year 2021. And for fiscal year 2022, we've had a little over 6,800 contacts. So what I've been doing and my team has been doing, we've had a lot of help from RPM as well, is we've tried to clarify the information that is on our website, and we're in hopes that that is helping to reduce the number of email contacts. We do see about 50 to 80 requests for us to update addresses online. There's going to be phone numbers. I mean, it could be any multitude of things. And we do have some assistance from customer service, and I have to give a shout out to them because they are helping us take care of those simpler changes so that we can focus on the more complex contacts that we're receiving. Scrolling down, you'll see our current projects. We're constantly revamping how we're responding to COVID. As you may know, our agency is not immune to the effects of COVID. So we're always reviewing what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. In September of 2020 through November of 2020, our seasonal increase began. The average application backlog during that time, and again, this is 2020, was 1,356 applications with an average processing time of 70 days. It did peak very briefly at 98 days. The way our agency responded to that was by creating the Strategic Workforce Allocation Team. What this is, and for short, it was SWAT. What that was is that we cross-trained individuals from the entire agency to focus our efforts on getting our license base to be able to work. They processed initial applications, they processed renewal applications, and my team was able to focus on those more complex applications or applications that just needed a little additional review. Scrolling down to December, sorry, my screen keeps switching to a different page. So between December 2020 and February of 2021, the average application backlog was 815 applications. Our average processing time went down to 77 days, and it did peak very briefly at 96 days, and that was at the end of the quarter. The days to process applications fluctuated within the 60-day time frame, ranging between 470 applications to over 850 applications. Those were mostly in the moderately to highly complex categories, so the SWAT team was not able to assist us with those. The fluctuations in processing times was directly related to staff turnover. This would be mostly retirements and promotions, training that my team was doing for those SWAT teams, holidays, and then staff time off. During this time, there were only 3, what I refer to as veteran staff members who were still on my team from when we started. Next page, between March 2021 to May 2021, our average backlog was 668 applications with a 50-day turnaround. It did peak again at 85 days. We did have a new position created, which is the care position. What the care position does is they specifically address issues where license applications have kind of stalled in the process, and this could be for a multitude of reasons. It could be that there's an outstanding request for information. It could be that there was a system issue. It could be a staff error. There are multiple screens that have to be completed, so it's very easy to miss that. Although I am seeing a change where I make sure to address that with my team and just remind them of the things that they need to focus on and take care of, and things to check before they mark that an application has been processed. And during that time as well, my team was fully trained in all barber and cosmetology applications. You'll see in June 2021 through August of 2021, our average application backlog was 247 applications with a processing time of 38 days. It did peak at 103 days at the beginning of the quarter. Increases in processing times would be due to like outliers, like the increase in student applications that we receive, and then a larger number of contacts that are coming in via email. Believe it or not, we do still receive contacts by fax. So we'll try to reach out to those individuals when they provide us with the phone number. During August, which is the start of our busy season, our average processing time actually decreased to 16 days with an average of 128 applications at any given time. And just for reference, during fiscal year 2021, this team alone received 23,294 mail-in applications. And you'll see so far in 2022, between September 2021 and November 2021, this is our first quarter, the average application backlog was 233 applications with an average processing time of 16 days, and it did peak at 22 days at the beginning of this quarter. And again, that's because of the increase in student permit applications that are coming in, training staff, or just kind of doing refresher trainings for those staff that come in and help us with those student permit applications. And then between December 21 to January of, oh, sorry, I see a typo there. It says, it should say January 2022. The average application backlog was 62 applications with an average processing time of 15 days. The peak was 22 days at the beginning of this quarter so far. Again, directly related to holidays and staff time off. For fiscal year 2022 so far, this team received over almost 8,000 mail-in applications. And that concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much, Yvonne.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Jameson?
Yes.
Ron Jemison, I had a question in regards to the continuing education licenses, or to my understanding, are those renewed online or only by mail?
They're renewed on, they can be done both ways. And I would say that we receive, I don't know, it seems like half and half, but we don't intervene at all with the online renewals or any of the online applications. My team never sees those unless there's an issue and the individual has a question about it.
Basically what you're saying is you can renew online and you can pay online.
Yes. And for anyone who does not have like a credit card, you can go to any store that sells like Visa gift cards, and you can use that to renew online.
Right. Also, the name of practitioners that goes into effect, starting in effect now, correct?
It is in effect now by law, and we're starting to use that in the we will start to use that in the proposed rules as well once we start looking over all of those.
You'll still be separating the
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit.
You'll still be separating by the course, correct? Or the exams, like the report that you do, Class A barber, operator course, things of that nature. We'll still be getting those reports. Right?
I believe so. And that's something that the Education and Examination Division can go over during their report. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, we're ready to go to the Customer Service Division. Jacqueline Rush.
Hi, good morning, board members. This is Jacqueline Rush. I'm a manager in the Customer Service Division. And I can tell you a little bit about our area and welcome any questions. The Customer Service Division is a mission-driven, hardworking group of co-creators. We work in a fast-paced environment and thrive on innovation and service. We have a passion for solving problems collaboratively, valuing teamwork, respect, and open and free communication. Our team includes frontline customer service reps, embedded service reps, ombudsmen, also known as team leads, quality training performance analysts, managers, and the director. We communicate with our licensee population and the general public via phone, email, and social media. We serve as guides, educating and assisting applicants through the application process for all programs. We are the first point of contact and many times the only contact our customers will have with the agency. Our focus is on engaging customers and resolving issues. We are here for the customer success. We believe in reducing customer effort and taking a proactive approach to improving the customer experience. TDLR regulates a diverse array of industries and occupations, but our goal is to respond as accurately and efficiently as possible. Management understands that exceptional service is an attitude that is cultivated through training, support, and experience. We've got some statistics for you of our 39 programs, and we have them listed from fiscal year 2021. So you'll see cosmetology and barbering in different sections at this time. But as you can see, cosmetology and barbering show up in our top 10 program contacts, with cosmetology being number 1 overall and barbers coming in at number 8. And then the next group of statistics that we have, you'll see contacts received through phone calls and emails and answered for fiscal years 2021, and the numbers that we have so far for you for fiscal year 2022 through this last December. And before we move on to the department updates, do you have any questions on our division or the statistics that I can answer for you? All right, so what we have here briefly are just our statistics to keep you up to date on our calls and emails for the barbering program for fiscal years 2022. It's a closer look, and 2021. So you can get a feel for how many calls and emails we're getting. This first page is specifically for the barbering statistics. So that's fiscal year 2021. Again, emails and calls coming in. And then we've got cosmetology statistics following the barbering. Again, starting out with fiscal year 2022, the most recent numbers we have for calls and emails coming in, followed by 2021. Okay, and so those are all the numbers that I have for you today. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, and I guess thank you very much, Jacqueline. We appreciate it.
Thank
Guess
you.
we're ready to go on to the enforcement division. And I think there was a change in that. My program we're supposed to go to John Matlaw. Am I correct, Anna?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Presiding
morning.
Officer Lindsay and board members. My name is John Medlock. I am the Chief Prosecutor for the Enforcement Division. What you see in front of you, I'm going to kind of give you a little introduction to the Enforcement Division. This is kind of a org chart of how we are set up. We are led by Ron Foster, who is our director. As you can see here, we're kind of broken down into 3 different sections, with our intake section being led by Ms. Cheryl Wilson. Our investigators are led by Art Revelo. The prosecution section is divided between 2 folks, myself, and I lead the prosecutors, and at the same time, too, the legal assistants are led by Jackie Ravi. The Enforcement Division is responsible for the investigation and resolving.
I'm sorry, John. Mary Winston here. I'm sorry. Can everyone hear John? Can you speak up just a smidge?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Not a problem. Sorry about that. Again, the Enforcement Division, our job is responsible for the investigation and resolving of the complaints that come into the department. All of the complaints that come into the division come in through our intake section. The intake section's job is to essentially review those complaints to determine whether or not that those complaints have they complain about something that we have jurisdiction over, one of the programs that we regulate, and whether or not it should be open. Once we've done the intake section has made that determination, they move that case along over to the investigators. The investigators' jobs are to do exactly what you think they would, to investigate the different cases, to determine all the witnesses that might be involved in that case, collect documents, take statements, there may be some photographs, whatever the case might be. But that's kind of what their job is. And then eventually they'll write a report, and then that report will get moved over to the prosecution section. The job of the prosecution section is to determine what ends up happening with the case. We'll look at all the evidence. We'll maybe engage an expert in some of our different programs, especially our health-related programs, to determine whether or not standard of care violations have happened. But essentially, we'll come up with the decision of how that case should be handled, whether or not we're closing the case for some insufficient evidence. Maybe we're closing the case with a warning. or we're going to start with some formal disciplinary actions through the notice of alleged violation process. Now, the types of complaints that we get, we have basically 3 different types of complaints that we get. The vast majority are consumer complaints. These are complaints that come from outside in the general public. Something has gone wrong with somebody, one of our licensees that they've engaged with, so they'll file a formal complaint with us. That will go through this process that I'll explain a little bit more in detail here in a minute. We also have departmental complaints. We have a whole section, our field inspectors, who will go out and do periodic inspections. And if they find something is a potential violation of the different laws and rules of these programs, they'll submit those complaints to us. And again, we'll kind of go through that complaint process, that complaint resolution process to determine an outcome of the case. And then finally, we've got criminal histories. So every one of our licensees, whether they be a brand new person looking to become licensed with us or a renewal application, goes through the criminal history process. Each one of our programs have a different criminal conviction guideline where we will review different criminal convictions based upon that guideline and make a determination of whether or not that licensee either A, needs to get their license in the first place, or B, whether or not that renewal needs to go through and we can possibly revoke that license. But in going through all these process, we use our complaint resolution manual to ensure that we have consistent standards so that we don't treat different cases differently, that we're trying to treat all the cases in the same way throughout the entire process, because we strive for consistency. Along with that, each different program has an enforcement plan. This is a guide for the prosecutors to use to determine when a particular type of a violation occurs, that there are some standard type penalties and or sanctions that may be associated with it. So that way the general public kind of has an idea when they are dealing with us through this enforcement process, that they understand what the potential penalties and violations and sanctions could possibly be. And again, the criminal conviction guidelines is that set that a couple of my prosecutors will use to determine whether or not a particular conviction meets those guidelines to determine whether or not that license will either be issued or renewed. The last couple of pages, is a flow chart of kind of how the complaint process runs. And now I'll kind of run you through that. So essentially, like I said earlier, all the complaints come into our intake section. Their job is to determine whether or not we have jurisdiction. Is this a program that we actually regulate? And is what is being complained about actually a violation of one of our laws and rules? Once that determination is made, if it's no, that either it's not something that we regulate program-wise, or if it's not something that what is being complained of is actually a violation of our laws or rules or a potential violation, that case will get closed right there in the intake section and won't go any further. If the answer to those questions are essentially yes, then the case will get opened up for an investigation and it will go to one of our investigators. We have 3 different regions of investigators throughout the state with investigators throughout each of those regions. So depending on where the violation occurs, one of those investigators will be assigned to that and may even be doing some on-sites if necessary. But essentially their job is to collect everything, all the evidence. They ask the who, what, when, where, how, why questions. They'll compile all that, put that into a report, because their job is not to determine what happened. Their job is just to collect all the facts. And then they'll submit that over to a prosecutor. And then the prosecutor's job is to take all that information, compare it to the laws and rules, and make a decision about whether or not a violation occurred. Essentially, like I said earlier, we can close a case for insufficient evidence. We can close a case with a warning, or we can issue an NOAV. So depending on what we see here, if we close a case with as insufficient, or just we're going to close the case, the respondent will get a copy of that as well as the complainant indicating why that case was closed. Sometimes we'll issue a warning letter because maybe the respondent has brought that violation into compliance. Maybe they've done something right by the complainant in that case, so we can issue a warning in that case. But if we are going to take a formal disciplinary action, we'll go ahead and issue a notice of alleged violation. Each one of our notice of alleged violations does contain a settlement offer. And essentially, if we issue that violation on the back page, the respondent has a choice. They can look at it and go, you know what, I did commit that violation. I am willing to settle, and they can sign it and send in their penalty payment or accept their sanction. At the same time, too, if that happens, we'll put that all into an agreed order, and our executive director will be signing off on that. If we don't have an agreement and we have not heard anything from the respondent, because there's a certain period of time, usually it's 25 days, to hear from, we'll issue what we call a notice of default. That essentially gives the respondent one last chance to come back and contact us to do something with that case, whether we come through an agreed order, or the other thing that we possibly have is a contested case before the State Office of Administrative Hearings. Let's say that the respondent has gotten that letter and they don't think that they committed that violation. They have the right to take that case before an administrative law judge at the State Office of Administrative Hearings, or what we call SOA. We will have that hearing before that ALJ, and it is just like a trial, other than the fact that there is not a right to a jury trial. But we will present our case. We have the burden by a preponderance of the evidence to say that what we think or what we are alleging actually did happen. Respondent has the right to be represented by counsel. At the same time, too, they have the right to put on evidence, whether it be testimony, photographs, whatever they think will help their case. The ALJ will take all of that information under advisement, and they'll issue what they call a proposal for decision. Essentially, that is the judge's way of saying, based on all the evidence and the testimony that I've heard and seen, I think this should happen. It essentially comes down to one of three things. They can either say, state, we think you've carried your burden and the penalty and or sanction that you've issued is appropriate, and that's what my recommendation is. Or they can say, state, we think that you've carried your burden, but the penalty and or sanction may be a little bit high, so I'm going to reduce it in some way. Or they could say, state, we don't think you carried your burden at all, and we think that the respondent wins this case. However that PFD comes out, the Commission on Licensing and Regulation, that's a 7-member body appointed by the governor, will hear that case and ultimately decide and come up with a final order in that. There are a couple of options depending on how that happened, how that case gets disposed by our commission, and allows for the respondent to have either a motion for hearing before the commission, and then eventually, if they still don't like the determination in those results, they can appeal it to a district court, and then the attorney general would represent TDLR in that case. But that is just kind of a little bit of a breakdown and kind of a little bit of what we do here in the enforcement division. The other thing we will be doing is presenting some different case highlights and statistics for you folks. I'm going to step aside and let one of our prosecutors who work these programs, Victoria Meza, do this presentation for you. And so unless you guys have any questions, I will turn it over to Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Matlock.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Victoria Mesa. I'm a prosecutor for the Enforcement Division, and I'll present the enforcement report to you today. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time and patience as we go through all these presentations. I'll be covering key statistics for the Barbering and Cosmetology programs and show you the same statistics for the agency as a whole, concluding with 6 cases that we feel represent examples of the work our division does on behalf of these key programs. If you look at our first key statistic on page 35 of the PDF packet, you'll see that for fiscal year 2022, the department opened a combined 769 cases for barbering and cosmetology. There you go. And overall, more cosmetology than barbering cases were open, but it's merely representative of the licensee populations for these programs. We simply just have a greater number of cosmetologist licensees. However, combined, both programs are a large part of our agency's work. In fact, 27.5% of the cases opened overall for this fiscal year are cosmetology barber cases. This is consistently true for these programs, which means more than a quarter of the work that this division performs is centered on these programs. However, if you look at the percentage of cases resolved within 6 months, you'll see that for barbering, nearly 80% of cases were resolved within 6 months, and approximately 66% of the cosmetology cases were resolved within 6 months, while the agency averages closer to about 57% of cases resolved within that same time period. And if we move to page 36 of the PDF, we have the case outcomes. And again, these numbers reflect pretty consistently the populations of our licensees. First, we have commission orders And these are cases like John was just talking about. This is kind of what he was running through. These are cases that don't settle and they go through the whole administrative process. And we had only one commission order for cosmetology and 10 agency-wide. And you can see that our agreed orders outnumber our default orders. So just as a reminder, agreed orders come about when we issue that NOAV or notice of alleged violation, and the respondent then contacts the department, agrees to accept responsibility for the violation, and we end up settling the case. Whereas the default orders occur when a prosecutor issues that notice of alleged violation, and then the respondent, whether that be a licensed person or an unlicensed person, doesn't answer that notice of alleged violation, and it ends up with a default order issuing. Next, you can also note in this chart that you have penalties assessed, and those tend to be greater than penalties collected. And there's a number of reasons for this. However, one reason is that we do allow for payment plans for respondents to agree to accept responsibility for violations, and therefore those fines tend to get paid out over time. So that's one of the reasons that those numbers don't always jive up in any given year. The remaining charts that we have are on page 36 and 37, and they discuss the top 10 violations alleged at opening and violations that actually result in disciplinary actions. And I think the most notable thing in these charts that distinguish the two programs can be found in the top 3 violations. Just to take an example, in barbering, we see more complaints generated by our criminal history checks, and in cosmetology, it's much more heavily driven by consumer complaints. So for instance, in barbering, you'll see 59 alleged violations for criminal history in fiscal year 2022 that resulted in 5 disciplinary actions. But for that same time period in cosmetology, there are 159 alleged violations for failing to clean and sanitize, and 31 of those actually resulted in disciplinary action. There's a number of factors working here to create these statistics, but one example is a different set of offenses have been determined to be directly related to the barbering than cosmetology. So criminal history requirements for barbering are generally speaking more strict, specifically regarding drug offenses than they are in cosmetology. Does somebody have a question? Yeah. So you're going to have more denials and revocations in that program based on criminal history than you would in cosmetology. Now, if you flip it over and you look at cosmetology, as I said, there's a larger licensee population of cosmetologists. Therefore, you're going to draw a larger number of consumer complaints percentage-wise than barbers. So those type of complaints tend to lend themselves to sanitation issues. So you're going to get complaints about, oh, this lawn was dirty, or, you know, I didn't see them clean the tools, things like that. And as we see those consumer complaints being based frequently on sanitation issues, those allegations and violations tend to go hand in hand. If we go to pages 38, 39, and 40, we have the same statistics that we just went over, but these are for fiscal year 2021. So the total number of cases open for both programs was 2,636 cases, which represented roughly 26% of the number of cases the division handled that fiscal year. The greatest change that can be seen in the pie chart under sources of cases open for fiscal year 2021 on page 38. Sorry, Anna, I know I'm driving you crazy. There you go, that one. The largest difference between the fiscal years for these percentages across all 3 categories is the percentage of departmental complaints. And of course, our fiscal years, as has been noted, start in September of the preceding year. So fiscal year 2021 would start in September of 2020. And the department was limiting on-site investigations and inspections during this time period due to COVID. So these investigations and inspections drive our departmental complaints, and therefore those numbers would naturally be lower. But by the same token, our consumer complaints during this period were slightly lower because fewer people, as all of you know, were going to barbershops and salons during that period. So otherwise, nothing out of the ordinary in these percentages. The remaining data falls in line with the trends that we've looked at in fiscal year 2022 for both the programs. I'm happy to address any specific question you guys have, but just in the interest of time, I was going to move on, but I'm happy to answer any specifics. Anybody got anything? Okay. Finally, I'd like to go over some case summaries for you. If I can get my mouse to cooperate. These are a few cases. We tried to do half and half, Barbering and Cosmetology, to highlight some of the disciplinary actions that we were discussing and to illustrate some of enforcement's work and the ways in which we resolve the cases. So these are real life examples of some of the things John was discussing. First, we have Jesus McBride, and he was doing business as Max Barbershop, and this is an agreed order. So on March 5th of 2021, an agreed order was signed that finalized the settlement agreement between the department and Max Barbershop. As part of this negotiated settlement, the shop owner, Jesus McBride, accepted liability for employing 4 unlicensed individuals who performed regulated services in a barbershop. The order imposed a $4,500 fine, and to date, he is in compliance with this payment plan. So that's a good result as far as the department's concerned. Then we have Kim Long Fido. Now, this next case is one of many cases that stemmed out of a larger school fraud case where we revoked a school license for fraudulently reporting school hours. So we caught the school that committed the fraud and stopped that activity. Then we have to go back and find the students that were involved who got licensed based on the fraudulent school transcript. And so this is one of those cases. So on September 9th, 2021, we have an agreed order that was signed that finalized the settlement agreement between the department and Kim Long Fido. And this respondent engaged in fraud or deceit in obtaining a cosmetology operator license because the respondent never received training that she claimed at the school. So the license has been revoked, and this respondent was fined $2,250. And so far, she's up to date on the payment plan. Then next we have William Muhammad and Darren Scott. They were doing business as Supreme Cut. So on September 21st, 2020, the executive director granted the department's motion for default against Mr. Muhammad and Mr. Scott. They were assessed a penalty of $2,200 for failing to provide hand washing facilities for their employees, failing to prepare fresh disinfectant solutions daily. Specifically, there was no barber sanitation, no barber stations had any wet disinfecting solution at all, and failing to keep plumbing fixtures clean and free from disrepair. Mr. Muhammad and Mr. Scott have not complied with this order, so it needs to be noted that until they do come into compliance, they won't be allowed to renew their license. Next, we have Raul Medina. And on April 21st, 2021, the executive director granted the department's motion for default against Mr. Medina. This default order combined 4 total cases, all of which were stemming from complaints of unlicensed activity by Mr. Medina. These complaints ranged from everything from consumers who prepaid up to $470 for advertised services that were never rendered, to a consumer who paid $225 only to have her hair over bleached, causing the hair to be damaged and fall out. Mr. Medina was assessed a penalty totaling $12,000 for the unlicensed practice of cosmetology, and he's not complied with this order, and this order has actually been referred to the Attorney General's Office for collection at this point. Now we have Mr. Louis Lujan. And this is one that is a criminal history case, and it was revoked by operation of law. So on September 4th of 2020, Mr. Lujan submitted his Class A barber license renewal application to the department. However, in September of 2019, Mr. Lujan was imprisoned as a result of his conviction for felony offense of possession of marijuana. There's a provision in the Occupations Code which automatically revokes an occupational license when the licensee is imprisoned for a felony, as Mr. Lujan was. However, since this offense was not directly related to the occupation of barbering, the respondent was notified that once he was out of prison, he could apply for a new license. So he reapplied in January of 2021, and the department did give him credit for his experience and his education. We simply required that he retest, and upon passing his exam, he was issued a new license. And then we have another example of a criminal history case. This is Garrett Paul Phillips, but this one went a little bit differently than Mr. Lujan. So in July of 2016, Mr. Phillips was first licensed as a cosmetology operator. He submitted his cosmetology operator's license renewal application to the department on June 4th of 2020. Upon learning that Mr. Phillips had 2 assaults and 2 probations that he completed for violent felony assault, which can be read about in my summary if you're interested in the details, the department moved to deny his renewal and revoke Mr. Phillips' license. Mr. Phillips requested a hearing on the proposed revocation at the State Office of Administrative Hearings, and after a contested case, the administrative law judge found for the department, issued the proposal recommending Mr. Phillips' license be revoked and his renewal be denied. The ALJ issued the revocation and renewal denial not only because those violations appear in the criminal conviction guidelines, but because they pose a continued threat to public safety. And also, if employed as a cosmetologist, he would be placed in a situation where he would have the opportunity to commit additional assaults. So this proposal was subsequently adopted by our commission, and on October 13th, 2021, the respondent's license was revoked. So that gives you some examples of the cases that play out in the discussion that John had prior to my presentation. And that's all I have for you. I'm available for discussions or questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria. Okay, our next item on the agenda is Education Examination Department. Mr. Ray Pizarro.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members
Hi.
of the board. I'm Ray Pizarro, Director for the Education Examination Division. First, congratulations to each and every one of you on being appointed to this new board. I think it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of work and a long journey before us, and I'm excited to work with each and every one of you. So I normally don't give these presentations for the division. Is usually my staff, but I wanted to be here just so that you know who I am, introduce myself, and kind of just give you a general overview of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So the E&E, first of all, I've been with the state for 30 years, and I've been with TDLR for right around 18 years now. We created the E&E division back in 2004. The main objectives and what we do as E&E is we oversee the examinations for licensee holders. We oversee the continuing education and pre-license education for a lot of different establishments such as schools. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we go through this presentation. You will notice that we do all of this with 20 staff members in E&E. I normally say we have we're a small division with big responsibilities, and that I truly believe there's a lot on our staff and what we do. We touch 31 programs of the 39 we regulate, and that is just, and I mean that by some of them will require examinations, some of them will require CE, others will require some review of their courses and curriculum before they can operate, and either to renew their license. So E&E, what we do is some of the schools, just like for Barbering and Cos, we approve those schools and we approve their curriculum. Unlike licensing touches the individuals. Our division touched the business practice and those folks who are offering services to the individuals and or students. I'll look at it that way. And as you can see, all of the program types of, barber schools and cosmetology schools, massage schools, driver education schools, those type of things, you'll see the total amount during FY 2021 of what we've done. So those are key things, and we'll be working with a lot of you all. And once these work groups are appointed by you guys, we're going to be talking a lot more because we're going to be rolling up our sleeves with CE. We'll be looking at more at the curriculum to have some more consistency between the Barber Cause now that we're merged. So there's a lot of things we look forward, not only through rulemaking, but there's going to be a lot of operational changes that we're going to have to do. If you will see that the examination piece of it, that alone is a huge endeavor that we do for all of the licensees that we touch. We administered more than 75,000 exams. We average we get about 200 plus results from PSI daily. That's how many exams we administered, not only for Barber Cause, but for all of the other ones that we've talked about. That's just a very important thing to try to get people out working timely to ensure that they're able to do their business. If you look at, we also provide training. We have staff that will go out to our schools, that will go out to meetings, associations, and talk to those individuals and let them know what's happening, kind of giving them the best practices and giving them the up-to-date daily news of what's happening at our agency, what's happening with your business, and the things that you need to know so that we can continue to provide those services to the individuals and students. One thing I want to touch on is I think Mr. Jemison made a comment and asked a question about renewals online. I just want to make sure that we all understand that renewals for anything we do in E&E for either schools, CE, providers, curriculum, none of those things can be done online. The only online services are for the individuals. So I just want to make sure there's a clear distinction between the individuals and the schools and the providers. And I also wanted to clarify on practitioners, that law does include that term practitioners, but I want you all to know that we are not changing the name of Class A barber or cosmetology operator. Those still exist. I don't want anyone to be confused that we are going to call everyone a practitioner. Those names still exist in the law and they will still exist in the rules. So I just want to make sure we don't inundate our customer service with phone calls if that was to happen. I just want to clear that up. Again, as you can see in the training and the public outreach, we do go out. You see some of the driver education training conferences. We do a lot of those. We have our we go out to a lot of the barber and cosmetology schools. We have our site visits. We also do audits, and we train the Motorcycle Safety Coalition. We train those folks, and we go out on the safety of the training courses that these motorcycles actually do training for individuals who are buying a new motorcycle or learning how to ride. Those are some of the safety measures that we take place, and we do audits on those courses. We also hold a lot of summits, and you'll be seeing that hopefully sometime this year. We'll be doing some summits with a new barber and cosmetology team, industry, if you will, and boards. We want to keep you up to date of what's happening in your industry, how we're doing it, and what's going to go on in the future. I know there's a lot of questions, and a lot of those questions will be answered. We want to make sure people stay in touch with TDLR, make sure you sign up, because we are changing very quickly, and we're putting notices out there for you guys to be aware of. So please make sure you touch base with us. One last thing on what we do and how we do it is contracts. We are small, as I mentioned earlier, but we contract with a lot of vendors so that we could achieve the work that we do each and every day, make sure that we're transparent and we don't have any hiccups or any hindrance on people doing businesses. One of the big thing is the PSI contract. That is a huge, as I said, we administer a lot of exams yearly, and that is a huge part of our doing business very smoothly each and every day. I'm going to move on to the statistics. You'll see the stats. This is not set in stone on how we do these stats. I want you guys to look at this and think about future. We don't need an answer today, but this is how we report barber and cosmetology. They're separate. There may be things you want to see as now that the industries are together. They are still separate, as you have a barber exam, you're going to have a cosmetology exam, those types of things, but there may be other things you guys may want to see. So let's talk about those things, and I would like for you all to provide input on what you would like to see. These statistics were created, and they were fluid, and we made changes as each different board was wanting different things. Barber board wanting to see certain things, cosmetology board wanting to see others. So those things are out there, and I just wanted to share that with you. This is how we are presenting that type of information. And as I said again, we could make those changes as you see fit. If you scroll on, you'll see a lot of the license type that we actually provide on pass rates, and you'll see those as you've seen on the most recent communication that we've put out there. The Barber Tech, that license is going away. So you'll see some of these things. And so the instructor, there will no longer be here as we move forward. But again, a lot of these things will change and will be fluid. But as for the pass rates and how you want these to be presented to you, and if there's any other reports you would like to see, please feel free to let me and my staff know what those things will be. I just wanted to provide a quick overview. I didn't want to give you just any details. I know there's a lot for you to look at and understand and comprehend of all the things we do. But this is just a general overview. Again, if you have any questions right now, I'll be happy to answer those. And we'll see you in work group meetings, and hopefully we'll see you soon face to face.
Any questions?
Yes. Madam Chair, this is Ron Jemison Jr. Thanks a lot, Ray Rosario, for that and for always being available for us. Piggyback on what you said earlier of answering and clarifying my question. Is that something that possibly can be changed, or is that in law about the renewal or the payments online?
Yes, Ron, we are. You and I have talked about this. I know we have, and thanks for bringing it up again. These are some of the things that we anticipate. We want to make these changes, and now even more so that we have a merge. There's a lot of. I want to be cognizant about our IT folks. This is, as you know, and you guys will realize, there's going to be a lot of changes for our database system. Our IT is going to have their hands full on all of the little persnickety things that we're going to have to change because of this merge. And it's one of those things that I know this is a long time coming, Ron, but we do need to get those online for you guys to be able to renew online. So I agree. Those are something that's on our radar, has been on my radar, and we will try to make those efforts happen sooner than later. But I can't tell you a date or if that's going to happen, but I do want you to know it is on my mind, and it is on our staff's mind to try to make that happen for you guys.
Mary Winston, TDLR. Mr. Flores, I was going to interrupt, but Mr. Flores, I don't want to interrupt the questions.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just Ray, first and foremost, thank you so much for your time and the hard work you're putting to your division. I really appreciate that, sir. I just want to get a clarifying question, hopefully making sure I have the answer correct and our audience is listening to that. Are we saying that every license that people receive will have the same name as it was before? Or are we saying they're going to change like cosmetologist or barber?
So some of them will be the same. Some of them will have a slight change in title as license type, and we'll see those as we move forward. But specifically for the Class A and the operator, those names will remain. You'll be called the cosmetology operator. You'll be called the Class A barber. But there's some underlying, we call them underlying license, that those names have changed because of legislative changes. And we will share those with you, and we will of course make that public. We will have summits about it. We will have communication and website postings. We'll send those out with a lot of clarity, and we will continue to try to make those conversations with everyone to make sure it's clear to everyone. This is a big change for everybody. We totally understand that, and it's going to be a really, really big thing for everybody to comprehend, just because it's been done for one way for so long, and now we're making this huge, enormous change and a big shift. So we're going to navigate with you guys, and we'll be in the waters with you to make sure that each and every one of you are understanding and what's the requirement, what you guys need to do, and how we need to move forward to make sure that everyone is taken care of it the way they need to be. But we are well aware, but those specific names, Mr. Flores, those at the barber class A will remain class A barber, and so is the cosmetology operator.
Thank you so much for the clarification. We were asking that question for a while, so I appreciate your support in that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ray.
Presiding Officer Lindsay, Mary Winston here.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone has been so patient, and we appreciate it because this meeting is a little longer than our standard meetings will be. It's a training for our newer members as well as the public.
Yeah.
Would it be okay if we got maybe a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Presiding officers call, and took just a little bit of break because we've been going about 2 hours, and then pop back on and wrap the meeting up?
Yes, we can take a break. Thank you. Lindsay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. And we are ready for our sixth item on the agenda, and that's regulatory program management by Charlotte Melder.
Melder, yes, thank you. That break took us just past noon, so good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board. My name is Charlotte Melder, and I am proud to be the Director of the Regulatory Program Management Division. The title itself doesn't really tell you what we do or who we are, such as the name of licensing or enforcement does. Part of the reason for that is because our division is unlike any other. While we are one division, we are made up of experts and technical specialists whose job is to be tailored to the programs that they serve. For example, specifically in Barbering and Cosmetology, we have Angela and Sean, both of whom have an extensive history and wealth of knowledge and know-how that they bring to the conversations with you, the board, with associations, schools, etc. They are a single point of contact for anyone in the industry for questions and concerns. They also assist other agency staff with technical and complex matters that require an industry perspective so that we may issue licenses, enforce code requirements, and otherwise ensure that we, TDLR, are effective in our administration of each program. Of the 39 or so programs here at TDLR, we are responsible in this capacity for all programs except for a handful that are solely in the education division because they're education related, such as offender education programs. As you may have seen by the layout of our division, we are divided into 4 sections. Each of these sections has a section manager. And I debated whether or not to verbally list all of the programs, but in deference to the teams who work on them, if you will indulge me, I think it's important to kind of hear everything that we cover. The first manager is Chris Russi. He's the section manager, and his team is responsible for electricians, air conditioning and refrigeration contractors, industrialized housing and building, and combative sports. Next is Heather Muir. She is a section manager whose team is responsible for programs, your program, Barbering and Cosmetology, but as well as the massage and laser, and all medical and health programs, athletic trainers, behavior analysts, dietitians, dyslexia therapists, hearing instrument fitters and dispensers, midwives, orthotists and prosthetists, podiatry, speech language pathologists, and audiologists. Her team manages all of those programs with just 7 employees. Next is Stuart Stannard. His team is responsible for motor fuel quality and metering, water well drillers and pump installers, auctioneers, code enforcement officers, licensed breeders, mold assessors and remediators, professional employer organizations, property tax professionals and consultants, sanitarians, service contract providers, towing, used automobile parts recyclers, and vehicle storage facilities. Finally, our newest section manager is Delisa Hamilton, whose team is responsible for boiler safety, elimination of architectural barriers, and elevator and escalator safety. So quite a bit of program specialists. I mentioned earlier that we tailor our responsibility to the needs of the individual program. And I wanted to give you another example outside of barbering and cosmetology. One of our newest programs to the agency is the Motor Fuel Metering and Quality Group. You might have heard about a particular problem that we have had in this state with skimmers being placed on gas pumps with the intent of stealing credit card information. Our division houses 7 technical specialists who we have strategically located throughout the state, whose primary duty is to respond to suspected skimmers. Of course, they do quite a bit more. They have a lot more responsibilities, such as working closely with law enforcement and our enforcement division, but that's an example of how their responsibilities are different and we tailor them to the program. What follows in the handout that we provided are some statistics that we typically report to the commission when they meet. We report on technical inspections for programs that have technical inspections, such as boiler. Those are different from inspections that the inspection section does because they are technical and require that level of certification to be able to do it. But we also have third-party inspectors. We report the number of combative sports events that are held each month. We don't currently have a lot of data for our programs, which is why only some programs are represented in that report. But that leads me to the last portion of what I wanted to highlight, which is our response to the Sunset Commission's review. Our division was specifically tasked by Sunset to be more data-driven. And as a result, we hired a data specialist to help us with this. And all programs in RPM are going through a review to identify opportunities to incorporate data-driven decision-making and data-driven processes into our programmatic activities. We are working to streamline data collection activities and build data dashboards to put analytics tools in the hands of all RPM staff across programs. In some of our programs, we have already built data collection tools, databases, and matrices or matrix to expand the information available to staff in making recommendations. This will result in us providing our advisory boards and commissions with more tools to inform you and your work. In the Barbering and Cosmetology program, we are working to develop statistical models and dashboards to track trends in violations over time, by severity of violation, and by geographic area of the state, with the goal of preventing and/or reducing future violations. This will assist us in developing targeted outreach and education materials, and hopefully really enhance these programs. That is a very brief overview of our division. I didn't want to weigh you down too much with what the other programs are doing because it's not specific to you all, but I hope that tells you a little bit of what we do. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have before I turn the rest of the presentation over to Miss Angela Sanders, who I believe was on here before. She was having electricity issues with the storm. If it's not going to be her, it'll be Sean. But she's going to introduce herself, her team, and provide you with a presentation that you will see from us in future meetings. Like Ray just mentioned, we will not be giving you an overview of our division each time. But did you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Charlotte.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, is Angela there?
Yes, I made it back. I was
Hi,
able to
hi.
get back on. All right, thank you, Charlotte, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and Advisory Board members. Again, my name is Angela Sanders, and I'm the team lead for the Style and Wellness Professions team and the Cosmetology Program Specialist. Our Style and Wellness team consists not only of myself, but as Charlotte mentioned, we have Sean O'Neill. There we go. There he is waving. He's our program specialist for the barber program. And then we have Jerry Gonzalez, he's our massage therapist specialist. However, he does assist Sean and I in our with the barber and cosmetology programs. I'd like to just highlight some of the current projects that we have going on at this time. First off, Sean, Jerry, and I serve on the bill implementation team that's responsible for the implementation of House Bill 1560. Of course, regarding the consolidation of the barber and cosmetology programs. Sean serves as the lead for the establishment sub-team, which will be looking closely at rules and issues as they relate to the barber and cosmetology establishments. Couple of examples being sanitation requirements, anything regarding signage requirements, etc. This sub-team will look closely. We're also working with general counsel and other divisions such as education and examination, licensing, field operations, and enforcement on the consolidation of the barber and cosmetology rules themselves. Next, we've updated the barber health and safety rules posting found on the TDLR website. And this is in reference to the health and safety rules that are required to be posted in all barber establishments and schools. We're currently looking at and updating the cosmetology health and safety rules posting as well found on the TDLR website. As a result of House Bill 1560, the cosmetology establishments and schools will also be required to post the health and safety rules. And we're just ensuring at this point that the current posting contains accurate information. And we will continue to update these postings as rules are adopted and changes are made. We're also reviewing the current licensing and examination requirements of other states and jurisdictions to update our substantial equivalency determinations. This just serves as a tool to assist licensing with making decisions regarding the licensure of individuals who may move, to Texas from other states. We're also assisting the licensing division with transcript and foreign credential evaluations for out-of-state and out-of-country applicants seeking barber and cosmetology licensure in Texas. Sean, Jerry, and I have attended and participated in several exam review committee meetings for both the barber and cosmetology programs. Jerry participated in a virtual meeting for the cosmetology program exam review committee back on August 3rd through the 5th, while Sean and I participated in the barber ERC, which was held in person in Austin on October 5th and 6th. Sean and I will also be participating in the upcoming cosmetology exam review committee meeting, which will also be held in Austin, March 21st through the 23rd. So we're, looking forward to that. And finally, we're steadily drafting, reviewing, and updating internal standard operating procedures for our daily tasks. For example, such as procedures for preparing for advisory board meetings. Due to COVID and the cancellation of many events, in-person outreach hasn't been possible. However, if any meetings have any upcoming conferences, meetings, or professional association gatherings that you'd like for us to attend, whether it be virtually or in person, please feel free to reach out to us through advisory boards or even contact me, Angela Sanders, or Sean O'Neill directly, and we'll be happy to assist you. On behalf of the Style and Wellness team, again, congratulations to our new board members, and we're so excited and looking forward to working with you all in the future. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Okay, no questions? Guess we're ready to go to Field Inspection Division.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Beverly. I'm Director of Field Inspections. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. And congratulations on being appointed to the new board. I know we all look forward to working with you and are excited about the future of this profession. So the Field Inspections Division is the face of TDLR. Field Inspections performs on-site and virtual inspections to ensure that regulated industries operate in a safe and ethical manner. Our division is committed to performing fair, thorough, and timely inspections. The division, if you can see the org chart here, is divided into an SAT team, which is support, analytics, and training. And then we have 4 regions, each with their own assigned manager and inspectors that report directly to those managers within each region. Here's a map that shows the overview of our regions. And the blue counties, the blue shaded counties, indicate that there is at least one inspector that lives in that county. And the numbers indicate when more than one inspector lives in a particular county. So as I mentioned, we do on-site and virtual pre-license and periodic inspections. Beginning December 1st of 2021, the Field Inspections Division has begun to implement risk-based inspections for the massage program, and we will continue to implement additional risk-based inspection processes in alignment with our recent sunset review. So the division, and we're currently working actually to look at the Barbering and Cosmetology program and determine the best approach there for risk-based inspections. So we conduct inspections of a variety of license types, of course, barbering and cosmetology shops, salons, and schools, driver education schools, midwifery schools, licensed dog and cat breeder facilities, massage therapy establishments and schools, orthotics and prosthetics facilities, vehicle storage facilities, used auto parts recyclers, And we oversee a contract currently with the Department of State Health Services that conducts mold remediation inspections on our behalf. So we have inspectors that are cross-trained to perform inspections in multiple programs, and they typically have a day of administrative work where they plan for the week, and then they get out and they're in the field or online doing inspections and interacting with folks. So over the last 3 years, we've done an average of 25,500 inspections per year. And one of the things that we like to say about the division is that we're the face of TDOR. You can imagine you're conducting more than 25,000 inspections, probably seeing at least 4 people at each of those inspection locations. So, interacting with at least 100,000 people a year. So certainly the customer service and the inspection activities that my folks handle are very important for the agency. My inspectors are also trained to identify and report signs of human trafficking. Field inspectors have a unique opportunity to make on-the-ground observations, offer assistance, and report suspected human trafficking. In addition, when we can, we like to help present educational information to licensees, consumers, and municipal officials. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kim Tu Tran will be presenting more of a typical report that we will share with you on a go-forward basis. Thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, and my name is Kim Tu Tran. I am with the field inspections, and I'm very honored to present for the field inspection to the very first Barbering and Cosmetology Advisory Board. I was starting our report with personnel updates. Effective November 4, our Inspector 5 have been reclassified as senior inspectors. Our South Region Inspector, Inspector Abraham Delgado, retired as of December 31st. We wish him luck in his retirement and thank you for his many years of service to the people of Texas. And our current project, in November 2021, field inspection began development a risk-based inspection process for the Barbering and Cosmetology program in accordance with TDOR sunset review and legislation passed during the 87 regular legislative section. And field inspections have conducted 498 virtual inspections so far in fiscal year 2022. That's our first quarter from September through December 2021. And our statistic numbers for barber school inspections, yes, you're going to see the compare between 21 and 22. Barber school in fiscal year 21 was 94 inspections. This number is the same for the first quarter of fiscal year 2022. The reason is because during the COVID time, the school was closed. And cosmetology school, fiscal year 21, we completed 293 inspections. And 2022, starting from September to now, we completed 304 inspections. And barber school, fiscal year 21, we completed 387 inspections. And fiscal year 2022, we completed 398 inspections for the first four months. And the next report here, you're going to see different type of inspection. And it will compare between fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. For example, for cosmetology salon, in fiscal year 21, we completed around 3,000 inspections. And fiscal year 22, first quarter, we completed around 2,500 inspections. And the barber shop, fiscal year 21, we completed 325 inspections. And fiscal year 22, we completed 258 inspections. And dual salon. In fiscal year 21, we completed 583 inspections. And fiscal year 22, we completed 467 inspections. And mini salon, cosmetology mini salon, we completed 445 inspections in fiscal year 21. And we completed close to 1,000 inspections in fiscal year 22. And barber mini shop, we completed 25 inspections in fiscal year 21. And fiscal year 22, we completed close to 50 inspections. And dual mini shop, we completed 10 inspections in fiscal year 21. And fiscal year 22, we completed 27 inspections. So the total for barber and cosmetology program we combined together, fiscal year 21, we completed 4,391 inspections. And fiscal year 22, first quarter, we completed 4,189 inspections. And this is our most common violation found during the barber and cosmetology school inspection. In this report, you're gonna see few of them, I believe 3 of them we often found, and it's sent to enforcement, direct enforcement. So the first one that we found most is the school failed to maintain one album to display student permit. It may not in order of the last name or first name, or it may didn't have the pictures, or they might didn't have it at all. So this violation, mostly we found almost like 90% during the inspection time. The second violation that we found most is the school failed to submit students withdraw from the school within 30 days. And the next violation is failed to keep floor or furniture or ceiling clean or in good repair. And the next one is school failed to label the product in compliance with OSHA requirement. And the next one is the school failed to submit student hours monthly, and this is sent directly to enforcement. And the school failed to keep student record within 48 months, and this also sent to enforcement as well. And failed to store all implements in clean and debris-free. Mostly they mix up in between dirty and clean. They mix it up together. They didn't separate it, or sometimes they have non-cosmetology item mixed in with cosmetology item. Fail to display school license at the place of business, or fail to post instructor license. So with this violation, what we found mostly is they didn't post it at all. Our school only post half of the license, or we couldn't find the license because it was high under some paperwork. And the last one we have is school failed to submit student hours at the end of module. Sometimes we see that they didn't submit it until 6 months or 3 months or stuff like that. Oh, and this is really the last one for the school, that they failed to attach current photo at the front of the instructor license. So that was 10 most violations we found during the school inspections. So the next 11 violations we found during the salon or the shop inspection. The salon or the shop did not post the license in public view, and they did not post human trafficking sign as well. And failed to provide at least one restroom located on or near the salon or the shop, and failed to post consumer site, which is should be including TDR information like website, address, phone number. So if someone wants to file a complaint, they know where to file the complaint. And the salon failed to have current photo on licensee's license. Number 5 is regarding to the record of the spa chairs. This, I can say that mostly we found it almost at every location, that they did not have the record, or they did not keep it for at least 60 months, 60 days, or they did not write bi-weekly cleaning at the end of day cleaning, or those stuff like that. They just left it blank. And number 6 and number 7 is combined together, that the floor, wall, ceiling, shelf, furniture was not clean. And the salon did not have employees or independent contractors list provided to the inspector during the inspection time. Same violation with the school, that the salon failed to keep all the implements in clean and dry, debris free. And salon failed to prepare the disinfectant solution at least once a day. And the last one we have is the salon failed to post the license at the station or keep them in a notebook at the reception desk. And that was our this was the end of the report today. And thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Advisory Board, do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll proceed on. Office of Process and Project Management, Teresa Alvarez.
Yes, ma'am. Anna, can you hear? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Presiding Officer Lindsay and board members. Welcome to TDLR. I'm Teresa Alvarez, a project manager here to represent Kenny Wright, TDLR's Chief Transformation Officer, who directs the Office of Process and Project Management, OPPM. The department strategically positions TDLR for the efficient completion of projects and innovative growth. OPPM focuses on knowledge, work characterized by unique problem solving, collaboration, and mobility, which now comprises a significant portion of work across our TDLR. OPPM is comprised by 2 complementary arms, the Process Review and Enhancement Partners, or our PREP team, and the Enterprise Project Management Office, or EPMO. So the Process Review and Enhancement Partners, or PREP, work with the TDLR teams to enhance existing processes, ensure they are lean, assist in developing new processes, with a key eye on ensuring efficiency, a reduction in deficiencies with measurable results. So PREP uses key lean and Six Sigma tools to aid in supporting smaller, uniquely scoped projects that can be readily implemented in a 90-day period cycle of time. And there are 4 staff members assigned to that PREP team. Then going down, Anna. So the Enterprise Project Management Office, their mission is to provide agency-wide standard approach to project delivery. Projects are usually bigger projects, 500 hours across different departments. And their mission is to provide that standard-wide approach project delivery, to provide transparent and accurate project status information, and provide effective prioritization of project management resources to best support the agency's goals and strategic plan and vision. We have 5 project managers now. As you can see, we work in different areas, IT, etc. So what do? We create those programs that support agency staff from the executive on down to the challenge of the status quo. We ensure a supported and standardized program exists to develop leaders at TDLR. We perform a scenario planning exercise at least annually. We empower the employees as experts by providing time and location for employees to safely air their on-the-job pain points and lead them to create their own safe-to-fail experience via design thinking. This process is called whiteboard theory. It only takes about 2.5 hours, and many people participate. We also perform division gap analysis. What are those gaps? What are those things that are missing in a process? We enlist the expertise of the outside professionals to train employees in skills and method to prepare them to be more valuable in their roles. We also participate in strategic planning, writing, and editing. We provide insight to executives. We also capture the voice of the customer on a regular basis. And we work collaboratively with all divisions and HR to deliver training that is truly needed. Division representatives attend steering committee meetings to discuss, collaborate, and prioritize projects. We assess the expertise and skills held by the OI team members and develop train-the-trainer programs to build the capacity of others outside the Office of Innovation. We develop relationships with professionals outside of TDLR to ensure employees are challenged to grow by engaging with experts in their field. So we make those contacts with other people. We support HR training via Learning and Development Committee. We conduct division assessments and time and motion studies when called upon, and we create surveys that reach out to the public or our employees. We also assist with UT's survey of employee engagement. We assist with interviews at the executive level. We also collaborate with TDLR's Chief Information Officer to stay aligned with the project and innovation efforts. We analyze the business need and assist the business and staff in planning and prioritizing projects and ensure all deliverables are met. How do we do it? OPPM abides by the simplicity of only asking 2 questions. Is this something we should be doing? And if yes, is this the best way to do it? Obviously, if the answer is no, then the process or activity should be eliminated. Our job is made so much easier because of clear direction and open and free communication practiced by the executive director. We may not always be familiar with the hill we need to storm, but we can always count on the ED to support our charge. In the area of merge and bar cause programs, we are working on the 87th legislative, actually the Sunset 1560 bill, coding for instructors and renewals to underlying licenses, and other 87th legislature teams also. We also helped with the bar cause change from the 1,500 to 1,000 hours. And there's other things that we have been able to do in the past to support all the divisions and programs within TDLR. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Teresa.
I appreciate your time.
Okay, since there are not any questions, we'll go over to Office of Strategic Communications, Steve Bruno.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Good morning, advisory board members, and let me add my voice to those welcoming you and thanking you for your service. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the Office of Strategic Communication, or OSC, as we refer to ourselves here at the agency. It comprises 4 main functions. First, and the one that's, at least today, probably most important to you, is advisory board support and the anti-trafficking unit. The advisory board support provides, as it says here, A to Z support for all commission and board meeting, advisory board meetings. The anti-trafficking unit is another part of the Office of Strategic Communication. And because of the nature of some of our programs, the folks here are instrumental in our front line in assisting, helping to identify and assist those who are or who may be victims of human trafficking. Our communications are all handled through the Office of Strategic Communication. This includes press releases, external and internal communications, and social media communication. Our government relations team, we are the folks who work closely with our executive leadership and with legislators, the Office of the Governor, and really any public government office. It may include federal, state, or local offices who have questions or need assistance. And then finally, our web and digital media. These are the teams that design all of our websites and are responsible for the broadcastings of these meetings, and also importantly, keeping the records of these meetings. You can always find past meetings archived on our website, which is a very nice feature, because we realize that not everyone is able to attend every meeting as it happens live. Thank you so much, Anna. Some of the main folks for advisory board support, I know you've met some of them. We've got Mary Winston, who is the attorney manager for the Office of Strategic Communication. And then some of the most important folks for the advisory board support, Anna Clark, Angelica Lopez Sparks, and Delia Luna. And they have different advisory boards. We'll see their breakdowns in the next slide. And then, of course, our anti-trafficking team is these members of our TDLR family who are working to combat the scourge that is human trafficking. On the next page, we've simply got a breakdown of the different advisory boards that the three support specialists are supporting. Obviously, you all have met my wonderful coworker, Anna, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you helping me today by moving through this presentation. Let's go next to the government relations slide. I am the Senior Government Relations Officer. I'm joined by Jeff Kopis. And as you can see, we've got one open position that will be filled actually tomorrow. So by your next advisory board meeting, we will have our newest member of government relations to introduce. For our communications team, we've got two very important folks. We've got Tila Mange, who is our public information officer. Tila is going to be our frontline person dealing with any media or press inquiries, the primary drafter of any press releases, and also one of the monitors of all of our social media. Doug Van Pelt, also in communications, is responsible for many of the things you've seen here, including this presentation, different graphics and different visuals, and other ways we use to help share our information with you. So we have Doug to thank for helping to make all of this information look good and pleasing when you're reviewing all of it. Then our web and digital media team. Again, these are the folks who are responsible for everything on our website, including communications that go out, including these meetings, keeping up. And then we've got Todd, Josh, and Kevin. And we thank them for all that they do for us to help communicate all the important information that we share here at TDLR. A couple of quick examples on the next slides. This is just a simple screenshot of our homepage. We do encourage you to visit the homepage. We encourage everyone who's interested in this and all of our TDLR programs to sign up for email notices and communications. It's one of the ways that we like to communicate with our licensees. And of course, we also use social media. We've got our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram examples from those, and some of the messages that we send out are on the next slide. Finally, we've got contact information for your important contacts from advisory board support. I want you to know that I'm always available to you for any legislative or other questions that I might be able to help with. Please don't hesitate to reach out for me. And once again, thank you all very much for your service to Texas and to this very important industry. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your support for all our communications today, and Anna helping us.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's no questions, I guess we'll go right to the executive office to David Gonzalez.
So good afternoon, Presiding Officer Lindsay and board members. I will also chime in and thank you for your dedication to your professions and for volunteering. I know the commissioner joked about payment, but make sure to the whole public listening, it's all volunteer work and y'all have regular job, but we really appreciate the assistance and advice that y'all provide us in determining our path forward for the public we serve. It is a selfless act and definitely appreciated. Wasn't sure what to focus on to tell you the expectations of executive office as far as giving you some background, but generally the executive office is charged with providing leadership for the agency. Some of our staff referred to it earlier about providing vision and mission. Well, we're responsible for providing that leadership today and also into the future. So we do all that we can to invest in our staff. We try to spend our training budget every year down to the $0 amount. And we hope that we're developing the next great leaders in state government, whether it's management training or Toastmasters training, so we develop those public speaking skills. You actually saw some of our staff, like Jacqueline and Yvonne, giving presentations today on behalf of their supervising directors. These are things that we try to help them with. We try to help their development because it's so important in communication with our public and to y'all as well. Executive leadership, we do all that we can to help our agency stay focused on the vision and mission to be the best and to earn the trust of Texans every day. Executive leadership is expected to set the example. A few of our core values that I take to heart, these are a few of my favorites, is respect, accountability, and open and free communication. And I think the whole agency can tell you how I feel about open and free communication. These advisory board meetings are part of that. We want the inclusion of everybody. Lily Benitez, thank you for showing up for public comments. I do love the boards that have the public give us their input, give us their feedback, because that's the only thing that makes us better. Besides the advice of this advisory board, the public engaging in their professions and actually taking the time to read the statute and figuring out what our challenges are along the way. Strategic planning is going to be coming up soon. And that's where we invite the entire public, the whole state of Texas, to participate in what direction we have going forward for our vision, our mission, and what we focus on for each of our programs. So please make sure to take advantage of that open and free communication that we do embrace here at TDLR. Our executive director, Brian Francis, the short timer, has definitely done all of those things for our agency. He has deliberately prepared us for our next chapter. He's prepared his deputy directors for these things. He's prepared all our staff for the next chapter. And so we definitely wish him well in his retirement. And we do expect to take the baton. He's a big track fan, so we do expect to take this baton and finish it on down, make sure we finish with a strong lap. Brian would be the first to tell you actually that we get to take a lot of the credit for all of the hard work our staff is doing behind the scenes. And you've heard about it today. All of our staff have shared with you all the different things that they do. To support the executive director, there are actually 3 deputies. There's me, David Gonzalez, and I proudly oversee the licensing division, the customer service division, and the education examination divisions. They did a phenomenal job today with their presentations. There's also Christina Kaiser, who oversees the enforcement, RPM, and field inspections divisions. And then there's Mike Addis Mendez, who oversees finance, IT, and strategic response. And he has the dubious honor of also being anointed as our next executive director. So congratulations to Mike on being our next executive director. I believe that takes a official place tomorrow. So this is definitely Brian's last day, and Mike will be in charge from there on out. Very important, and I want to make sure that everybody in the audience hears this, everybody on the advisory boards hears this. Our executive assistant staff is really what makes all these things come together for our executives in our office. None of this stuff happens without their creativity, without their punctuality, their effectiveness. If there's a presentation and it looks good, it's probably because our executive assistants helped us put it together. If we're on time to a meeting or it sounds like we know what we're talking about, it's probably because our executive assistants have done their job and kept us informed. So I just want to make sure and give them kudos and credit as should be. The executive office consists of several groups, some of which you've heard already. General counsel, you heard from earlier, they gave their presentation. Just another shout out to Molly and Alex, who are stars in that group. A shout out to their peers and to their boss, Brad Bowman, because they do such a fabulous job of providing counsel and helping us with things like rules and with critical things like bill implementation, which we'll be going through in the next couple of years. The Office of Process and Project Management, you heard from our talented Teresa Alvarez, who is a star participant in our Toastmasters Club and a true poet. If you catch her on the side sometime, maybe she'll share some poetry with you, but she is a phenomenal public speaker. She's developing those talents as well as many of our other staff. But one more acknowledgement to Kenny Wright, who does a fabulous job leading that team and keeping us on track and on schedule with 30-something programs, 800,000 plus licensees, 9 different databases. We need someone keeping us on track and prioritizing things properly. The executive office also has Office of Strategic Communications reporting to us. You heard about that from Mr. Bruno, and he went through the government relations and media communications. There's a couple of more individuals I want to recognize here. The budgeting and strategic analysis that goes on in our agency is key. When you have so many programs coming over, so many millions of dollars of public monies, of licensees' monies invested in the success of these programs, we take that fiduciary responsibility seriously, and we have the talents of Tony Cuvion and Hemant Macon actually helping us with those things. So it is not easy to do all these things. Obviously, we have a finance division, but their counsel, their help with all the things that come across us program-wise and the budgeting process is really critical for our success. Also, very important, none of this stuff gets done without human resources. Our personnel attorney, Sharon Hamoya, leads up a team of absolutely amazing individuals who help keep us on top of our work related to hiring, separations, payroll, the ever important payroll. Nobody gets paid. I don't think we have anybody showing up for work. So the leave, and with COVID-19 and all the different protocols and all the different federal accommodations for taking leave, the staff health benefits, staff development, even participation in Toastmasters and other fitness efforts to try to keep our staff healthy and work-life balance and employee assistance programs. All of that happens because of our dedicated human resources staff. None of our operations happen without their tireless efforts. So I want to give a shout out to them. And then last but not least is our information security group. Shout out to their manager, Victoriano Casas, who heads up a great team. We are in the world of cybersecurity, and we have to stay trained on dealing with all the public and personal information that we receive from thousands, hundreds of thousands of licensees, and we take it seriously. And I will tell you, everybody in this agency knows Victoriano's name because he takes it seriously. His staff take it seriously. We do our best to make sure that the information we receive is taken care of and secure. So advising our agency on the possibility of cyber threats and everything we can do to prevent it is his job. I think that's all I have to share with y'all today, but if there's any questions at all, I was trying to keep it brief. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer it, and I'll turn it over to my peers.
And was Christine going to say something? At this point, too?
If there were no questions for Mr. Gonzalez, then I have the next part of the executive office report. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Kaiser. I am also one of the deputy executive directors here at TDLR. As everyone else has said, welcome aboard, and we look forward to doing a lot of hard work with you. We think the programs are in really good hands with this group. I am responsible for the regulatory affairs portion of the agency. So I'm sorry, I think David mentioned this already. I'm responsible for the Enforcement Division, Regulatory Program Management Division, and the Field Inspections Division that you heard from today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the legislative session and our implementation activities, and in particular, the sunset work that the agency has been doing. So as you probably all know, the Texas legislature met last year in regular session from January through June. And like all state agencies, TDLR was following a multitude of bills that were in front of the legislature that had to do with us. One big one, of course, was the sunset bill, House Bill 1560. Thankfully, it did pass. It passed on the very last day that bills could be passed in the regular session. And so we were on pins and needles and watching, anxiously, but it did pass. and continue TDLR in existence for 12 more years. And the Sunset Commission also gave us, a lot of work to do, some marching orders, and I'll talk about some of that in a minute. All told, we were monitoring about 300 bills during the legislative session. Around 50 of those passed. And so after the legislative session ends, we get on about the business of implementing the bills that passed during the session. To that end, our executive director, Mr. Francis, created a collection of bill implementation teams, or BIT teams for short, to work on various pieces of legislation. In total, he's created 28 teams. Out of those 28 teams, 10 of them are responsible for working on various parts of the Sunset Bill. And as you, if you keep an eye on the Barber or Cosmetology website that's on our web page, you will see notifications there when bill implementation work happens. Notifications go out to the listserv, the email listserv, and they also are placed on our website. So some of the things that the bill implementation teams do, one of the big ones, of course, are rule changes. So, anytime the statute changes, any content in the statute that is further interpreted or explained in our rules, we have to check and make sure the rules are still up to date. If not, they will need to be modified as necessary. The bill implementation teams also update agency procedures, policies, forms as needed. And a big part of what they do is simply communicating the changes that have been made in the law to the regulated industries, such as the folks that you represent. I wanted to talk a little bit in more detail about the Sunset Bill in particular. So the Sunset Review of TDLR started in 2019, and for about a year, the Sunset staff were in our house. They were here every day having meetings with different groups of staff, and just really learning about what TDLR does, what all our responsibilities are, but also just how we do business from day to day. And so at the end of their review, they published a staff report that came out in June of 2020. And the staff report, sort of the process is, after the staff report comes out, it contains a series of recommendations from the Sunset staff who were all in our house for a year. The Sunset staff report then is voted on by the actual Sunset Commission, which is a group that consists of senators and representatives. And then after the Sunset Commission votes, anything that they adopted, if it requires a statute change, gets converted into a bill that then goes through the next legislative session and has to pass before the statute changes actually take effect. So that's a lot of steps. And luckily, all those steps happened. And as I said, our Sunset Bill, House Bill 1560, passed on the last day of the session. So the Sunset staff report contains actually two different kinds of recommendations. There are statute change recommendations that go through that path that I just recommended and result in statute changes to the law. So for example, the changes to the Barber and Cosmetology statutes that are now being implemented in order to merge those two programs into into being regulated under a single law. Aside from statute changes, there are also management action recommendations by the Sunset Commission. And those are things that don't require any law to be changed, but it's some kind of process or maybe policy change that the Sunset Commission is saying, hey, TDLR, you need to change how you do this thing. And so we have both of those kinds of sunset requirements now that we are working on implementing. The statute changes that came through House Bill 1560 are being implemented by, like I said, 10 different implementation teams, but we also have some other teams that are working on the stuff that's not specifically statute related. And so I wanted to just tell you a couple of examples. And I'm pulling up some notes, so bear with me for a minute if I look vacant. So some of the stuff that is not specifically required in House Bill 1560, but is required by a sunset recommendation, is something that Charlotte Melder talked about a little bit earlier. She talked about how the Sunset Commission recommended that we become more data driven. And to that end, Sunset made some recommendations in issue 6 of the Sunset staff report that instructed us to do a better job of collecting data. First of all, collect data on a more consistent basis and a more thorough basis across your programs. And then specific to inspections, to be more consistent in our procedures for inspections across various programs. And so I think you maybe picked up that there are some inspections that are done in the RPM division or primarily overseen in the RPM division, largely done by third parties. But then there's also this whole separate division, field inspections, headed up by Eric Beverly, that does, and they specifically do the inspections for Barber and Cosmetology that you folks are going to be interested in. And so consistency of process and consistency of data, to the extent we can achieve that, is definitely a goal that we're working on. Even though it didn't come as a statute change, it's definitely something that we're working on. So some of the bill implementation teams that are working on sunset related stuff, I am in charge of one of those teams, bill team number 13, or BIT team for short, number 13. I'm responsible for all of the things that were included in Article 1 of the Sunset Bill. And again, you've heard about some of these already today. The requirement that our field inspections folks move to a risk-based model is in Article 1 of the Sunset Bill. A similar requirement for our enforcement folks to deploy a complaint prioritization model is also in Article 1 of the Sunset Bill. And a handful of other things that largely relate to the enforcement process, such as authority to order refunds. Some of the bill teams are already actually finished with their work. For example, bill team number 28 was responsible for creating a training manual for our commissioners and including certain content that had not already been previously included in training for new commissioners. So their work is essentially done. So big checkbox for them. The bill team number 3 is of relevance to you. This is the advisory board bill team headed up by Miss Mary Winston. And so the fact that this board has been formed and is meeting here today is a demonstration of their work underway. As a result of the sunset changes, there were several advisory boards that were either eliminated or had to be reconstituted in some way. And so Mary and her team have been hard at work ever since the legislature ended on getting that work done. So applause to them. And then, of course, the last one that I'll mention to you is the bill team for the consolidation of the Barber and Cosmetology programs, which is bill team number 17. And that's headed up by Ray Pizarro and Steve Bruno, both of whom you heard speak to you today. And I want to repeat something that Brian Francis, our executive director for today, for the last day of his role, I want to repeat something that he mentioned earlier. If you have not already reviewed the Sunset Bill, and in particular, Article 3 of the Sunset Bill is the one that talks about the merger of Barber and Cosmetology. I really want to encourage you to do that, because we're not going to be making this up as we go along. We're going to be guided by what the statute changes require us to do, and by the guidance from the Sunset Commission that was included in the Sunset Commission's staff report. And so, working in that role, to me, feels less scary, because we're not having to figure this out as we go along. We have clear guidance, and we're simply about the business of implementing the law that's been passed. And so I look forward to the appointment of the work groups. That's going to happen a little bit later on the agenda, because we definitely have a lot of work for them to do in various small pieces. We'll get this done. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer. I know that was a lot of stuff really quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about any of that. Or you can contact me separately if that gives you more comfort.
Any questions for Christina?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll yield the floor to Mary, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Christina. Mary Winston, TDLR. I'm going to wrap up the executive office report with a few statistics. Some of the reports given today you won't hear. We have introduced everyone watching to TDLR. We've introduced all of our divisions. Some of them we've talked about, finance. They don't have time to be here. They're making sure we all get paid. Thank you, Brandy and crew. But we've mostly introduced several of the divisions today. And we've also introduced how TDLR thrives. That's our phenomenal staff. So this little snippet tells us about how the public reaches us. When Yvonne Lopez gave her licensing report earlier, she talked about trying to improve the emails and trying to improve the information that can be given on our website to reduce that email traffic, right? That helps our different divisions, including licensing and, first of all, customer service. How do we do that? Mr. Michael Fickle, who is our webmaster, make sure that all the information we give him is posted properly on the site. And this takes the onus off of the individual divisions because it's right there. Who's been taking advantage of our Barbering and Cosmetology website? It's received almost, in the last 6 months, almost 800,000 views, an average of over 4,000 per day. But keep in mind, I think it's about 350,000 licensees that we're talking about here. So that's pretty good. This is where we want the traffic. This is where we want to know we have the information correct for everyone to see. 30% of the visitors access it from desktop computers. 69% access this information from smartphones. This tells us everyone's working. You practitioners and professionals can grab these smartphones and access this information and you're able to actually get what you need. And we still have the small tablet crew with 1% who access from a tablet. Top reasons for visiting the cosmetology website: how to renew a license, laws and rules, exam information, transferring from another state, and how to apply for the ILS extension specialty license. Top reasons for visiting the barber website: frequently asked questions. Again, laws and rules for barbers, examination information for barbers, forms, and transferring a barber license from another state. Madam Chair, we have completed all of our staff reports today, and now your board can conduct its next steps. As our next agenda item states in its title, it's time for our work group. Time to get to work. We've introduced ourselves, and now moving forward, staff will be contacting you, and staff will contact you. However, the work group consists of board members. Again, as GC said, not a quorum, but it's time to get to work. With that, we're going to wrap up all staff reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We appreciate that and all your support and getting introduced to everyone today. So now we go to our work group assignments, and I realize that everyone's anxious to get busy. And the advisory committee, we appreciate every one of you, and thank you for making time. And today we have these work groups. There are 4 work groups: education examination work group, enforcement, health and safety, and licensing. So I'll put that out there because it is voluntary for you to volunteer for one of the groups. As I have on the agenda today, there can be as many as 4 members to each of the groups. So I guess we will ask for volunteers for those work groups. And our first one's education examination.
Mary, I definitely would like to be considered for the education group.
Okay, Diedrich?
Same thing for me, Education and Examination Division, please.
This
Mr.
is
Flores?
Naylin. This is Naylin. I'd like to volunteer for the Education and Examination Work Group.
Did you get me?
Laura Valdez.
I got Mr. Flores, yes.
Great.
And Laura. Okay, that's our 4. So enforcement work group?
Is there any way to get any clarification of what we're going to be doing? I'm sorry, Ron Jemison.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jameson.
I can help with that.
Okay.
Is that all right, Mary?
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
thank you, Christina. See,
All
too
right.
many Marys. Thank you, Mary.
Of course.
Again, Christina Kaiser, Deputy Executive Director. So the work of the enforcement work group is typically to assist the enforcement division with developing policies that guide the work of the enforcement division. Some of these were mentioned during the enforcement presentation earlier. There are criminal conviction guidelines which are developed that set out categories of crimes that may be a basis for denying someone a license. Now, we have those currently for the barbering industry and the cosmetology industry, but as the regulation of these 2 industries is brought together, we're going to need to merge those into a single policy. And guess what? They're not the same. And so that'll be a hard conversation that we'll need to have first with the work group, then with the full advisory board, and then ultimately our commission will approve them or not. Another example is the criminal, the enforcement plan that sets out the penalties and license sanctions that are applicable to different violations under the statute and the rules. And then the third thing that hasn't even happened yet is one of the sunset recommendations is that we develop a complaint prioritization model. And so we are thinking that there will be a complaint prioritization model that applies to multiple programs that are kind of similarly situated programs. But we will definitely need some input from a work group on that as well. So that would be the big 3 things I would say they'll probably be working on.
I appreciate that information. Madam Chair, I think I would want to volunteer for number 2 and if possible, number 4.
Okay, for the licensing work group, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Jameson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Jemison, I'm sorry, for enforcement as well?
I was going to do enforcement and licensing if I could.
Okay.
So that's kind of my question. We're all going to have to serve on a couple of them.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm happy to serve on enforcement
Okay.
and health and safety.
And I'm able to do licensing and education.
Mr. Ledettrick, okay. Lynn?
Madam Chair, this is Darren Peterson. I'd like to volunteer for the health and safety and the licensing work groups.
Hey, Darren?
Ms. Wilson, Ms. Mary, also, I'd like to volunteer for the licensing, please.
Okay.
Ms. Lindsay, we also have to remember that Natalie Enderman is not here.
Right.
So we need to appoint her on 1 or 2 of them.
And then I'll put myself on the enforcement work group.
Okay.
And the health and safety. And we can include Natalie on the health and safety.
Okay.
This is Laura Valdez. I'd like to be on health and safety as well. And I already was on the education.
We only have one more.
This is Naylin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me go ahead and tell you who I have.
Okay.
We have only one more vacancy, and that's for enforcement. So for education, I have Leonard, Holman, Valdez, and Flores. For enforcement, I have Jemison, Farthing, and Lindsay. For health and safety, I have Farthing, Peterson, Lindsay, and Enderman. For licensing, I have Jemison, Leonard, Peterson, and Flores.
Okay.
This is Naylin. Can you add me to enforcement, please?
Okay, so I'm adding up everybody's to see.
Yes.
And if Natalie is interested in something that I'm on or whatever, we can switch around. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Can you list the health and safety? I'm sorry, I had volunteered for that one, but I didn't know if you
Sure.
already had enough people and I wasn't on it.
Yes, Farthing, Peterson, Lindsay, and Inderman.
Okay, so you only have me on education.
Education, yes, ma'am.
Would you like to be on health and safety?
Yes, I would like to be.
Okay.
I can come off if she wants to be on. It's not a big deal.
We can unvoluntold the person who's not here to do
Yes.
that, and then she won't be shocked, and
That's
that
fine.
works. Okay, awesome.
Thank
Should I
you.
take Inderman off and keep
Yes.
Ms. Farthing on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I just think I'd be really interested in enforcement and trying to come up with some innovative stuff there.
Okay. Anna, do we think we have them that we can read into the
See.
record?
So it looks like everybody has 2 except Natalie is not on any of them.
Okay.
Is that okay?
We, like you said, we can't voluntold her when she's not here, right?
Actually, you can.
I can, but
As chair, you
I
can.
would like to have some, and maybe we could trade around when she is available to answer what she would like to be on. Someone.
And Ms. Farthing, you are okay with not being on. You definitely want enforcement. So we can play with that a little bit. It is Ms. Lindsay's decision, but you do have someone willing to give one of her boards away. I'm sorry, one of her work groups away, which would be health and safety, I think.
I'm here at your discretion, you know, and Natalie will probably have a preference one way or the other.
Okay.
And just fill me in wherever you may need.
Thank you so much for that. And we'll contact Natalie and see where she wants to fit in. Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments about work group?
Would you like me to say them again? Just to be sure?
That'd be great.
Okay. And I'm gonna also email this list to everybody, just so
Good.
y'all can have it. So education and curriculum work group, I have Leonard, Holman, Valdez, and Flores. For enforcement work group, I have Jemison, Farthing, Lindsay. So I am in a conference room that my light keeps going off. There we go. So ever so often I have to turn off my video, stand up, and wave my arms. So the light will turn back on. Anyway, so for enforcement, I have Jemison, Farthing, Lindsay, and Holman. For health and safety, I have Valdez, Peterson, Lindsay, and Farthing. For the licensing work group, I have Jemison, Leonard, Peterson, and Flores. Does that seem to work well for everybody?
That's great for me.
Awesome.
Looks like
Thank
everybody
you.
else is good. And especially when you get that sent out to us, we'll be better. We have a hold of it so we can make sure we're where we're supposed to be, right? So thank you very much for doing that. I know that's a huge task.
Of course.
So next, we're ready for a recommendation for our next board meeting for our agenda, if there's anything that we want to put on our agenda for the next meeting. So I'll open the floor to our committee members and see what we want to discuss at the next meeting. And I know
Presiding officer, I'm sorry, before we open to the members,
Sure.
the work, as we said earlier, the work's about to start.
Right.
Before our next meeting, staff will call on the members and we will have reports from the work groups.
Okay. So we'll have the work group reports, right?
Yes.
Okay. What else? Now Mary left us.
No, I am circling.
And of course, as always, if there's any other items you want to put on the agenda between now and the time we schedule the meeting, y'all can always email me, anna.clark@tdlr.texas.gov or advisory.boards@tdlr.texas.gov, and just let me know what agenda items you'd like on the next meeting.
Okay, so then we have a discussion of the date and time for our next advisory board committee meeting.
For that one, I think I will poll you just like I did for this meeting. It'll be sometime after all of our work groups have met.
Groups meet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if we, any other comments?
Where we going to eat?
Adjournment?
Y'all
are ready for lunch, right?
Ron's buying. I heard Ron's buying.
I thought so.
Yeah. Well, they taxing through Zelle now, so I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's 1:15. So we will adjourn our meeting. And thank you all for coming and appreciate all your comments and your help.